Chapter 381, Cultural Relics for Stone Lions. Blue Star. In the clouds, Liu Yao appeared with 3 spiritual sparrowhawks. Ping An gracefully caught its master and turned its head to tweet softly, asking where to fly next. Liu Yao patted its head and smiled, home. Ping An nodded, then, with a flick of its steel wings, it accelerated to a speed of 700 km per hour in less than 2 seconds. The chaotic airflow slapped against his face, and Liu Yao praised, "You've become stronger again." Just by these speeds, one could tell that the spiritual sparrowhawks hadn't fallen behind and had become much stronger. One should know when they had first broken through, their speed was only 600 km per hour. Compared to humans, they were truly the most magical creations of nature. As he caressed Ping An's splendid feathers, the 3 sky-roaming sprites lifted Liu Yao's spirits somewhat. Let the demon beasts come if they must, it was simply the law of the jungle. But the golden bodies of the Shun dynasty, they didn't care at all about the impending tragedy. According to the newspapers, Zhang Wenda and Zheng Bohan wanted to annihilate the royal family with the help of foreigners, aiming to establish themselves. It could only be said that human nature does not become noble due to gaining power, but instead, it becomes more egregious. Whatever, I can't keep the act up much longer anyway, might as well have a real divine manifestation in the other world. Just as he finished reflecting, Liu Yao suddenly felt a strong pushing sensation on his back, as the spiritual sparrowhawks entered a diving state. After flying for a while, they adopted a strange triangular flying formation acting as windbreakers for one another, breaking the air ahead and turning the airflow into a force supporting all members. Once they picked up speed and retracted their wings halfway, their bodies became like arrows, plunging forward with the aid of the airflow. At that moment, the speed was approaching 1000 km per hour, and the air felt like a wall slapping against Liu Yao's face, slightly distorting his features. With this speed, they arrived at Xia country's capital in the early morning. The last part of the journey was navigated by Liu Yao himself. Now, he could observe the planetary magnetic field with his heavenly eye opened and navigate with its help. The purpose of coming here was clear: to congregate a truly unprecedented, absolutely positive willpower in the other world and condense it into a heart-like divine manifestation. That willpower, constructed on a thorny path, forged amidst a sea of flames and a mountain of blades, and united in braving the wind and the waves, was what he sought. At the Chengtian Gate Square, tourists from all over the country were waiting. Suddenly, a loud bugle call resounded, and the honor guard stepped out with uniform strides. It was the flag-raising ceremony. The crowd immediately straightened their postures, even the most lethargic people involuntarily became solemn. At this moment, Liu Yao was among the crowd, silently watching the ceremony, yet his entire body trembled with excitement. Through the heavenly eye's observation, the willpower gathered here was not only immense but also extremely pure. This was the nation's resilience and high-spirited willpower forged through trials and challenges, emerging more courageous after each setback. In the other world, only emperors and state preceptors could touch such a thing. If an outsider dared to, they would be turned into an idiot in an instant. Liu Yao took a deep breath, then looked around. He approached the stone lion on the east side of Tiananmen. The stone lion glared with big eyes, tilting its head slightly, mouth half open, displaying a combination of majesty and a touch of cuteness. Even he had to act cautiously with such pure willpower. It was better to find a medium. The stone lion was built in the 18th year of Yongle, silently watching over the historical changes before Jinshui Bridge, and had witnessed the entire nation's brave advancement through hardship and adversity. It was the most suitable vessel. Liu Yao carefully drew a wisp from the sky full of stars, as little as possible, and tested it through the stone lion. As the willpower entwined around his fingertips, Liu Yao felt an inexplicable surge of enthusiasm, as if he had been injected with a dose of adrenaline. He exclaimed with joy, "Good! This willpower does not repel me. Instead, it has accepted me." While he was overjoyed, more and more people around him began to stare. People took out their phones to compare repeatedly, expressions becoming more and more astonished, and some quick-fingered ones even posted photos on social media. Liu Yao's current popularity could easily knock several spots off the back of the trending search list. Videos, updates, news related to him with a little effort, they could rack up hundreds of millions of clicks. If one were to say who was the most famous, most widely known on Blue Star until now, it would be none other than him. There wasn't a place with electricity where people didn't recognize him. Back in his hometown, he was recognized immediately. The human tide began to surge, with exclamations rising continuously. At this moment, Liu Yao's divine soul had already left his body and was genuinely absorbing willpower through the stone lion. No intent to repel, purely positive willpower, but it's too much, too pure. Liu Yao hurriedly stopped the absorption, rubbing his face to regain his senses. In the other world, spirit refiners feared insufficient quantity and low purity, but it was the opposite for him. It'd be best if I could take it back to the other world to absorb, otherwise, I can't handle it. And after all, the two worlds are somewhat different. As Liu Yao pondered, he was already surrounded by a crowd so dense there was no escape. There were thousands of cameras encircling him, shooting from 360 degrees without any blind spots. Liu Yao greeted the cameras with a friendly wave, sparking an even more fervent round of cheers. To his surprise, he found that another wave of positive willpower was gathering towards him. The people from my hometown really are the warmest. Seizing the rare opportunity, Liu Yao quickly took out the pipa, lake sword and dragon pattern mirror to absorb some energy, preparing them for refinement. And when the crowd saw him pulling magical treasures out of his ear, they erupted into a wild uproar, screaming crazily. This scene was all too familiar. Sun Wukong with his golden cudgel was a memory to countless people. Just as the scene seemed to spiral out of control, a multitude of muscular figures joined together to keep the crowd at bay. Afterward, a solemn middle-aged man approached and extended his hand, saying, "Mr. Liu Yao, do you remember me? I am Wang Kuei." Liu Yao shook his hand. "I remember, you were the one who received that F-35B. Your timing is perfect, I have a matter I wish to discuss with you." Wang Kuei was slightly startled, asking, "What do you mean?" Liu Yao replied with a smile, "What do you think about me using these 10 cultural relics in exchange for that stone lion?" With a grand gesture, a selection of priceless treasures appeared on the ground, precisely those taken back from the Star Alliance country. Wang Kuei thought for a second and immediately said, "I will ask for instructions right away, please wait a moment. Please hurry, I'm short on time. Contact me on my cell when you've made a decision." Liu Yao leapt lightly, activating his ability to control qi, and amidst gasps of awe from the crowds, he soared 100 meters into the sky. The next second, Ping An had already dived down to catch Liu Yao and they soared away. The crowd was stunned for a few seconds before they began pointing in the direction where Ping An had disappeared, shouting, "What is that? It's like a small airplane, but a giant bird instead. It's the spear falcon, also known as the Oriental Green Hawk. It's huge, the wingspan must be over 7 meters. This is clearly a spirit bird of the immortals." This spectacle further solidified Liu Yao's identity as a cultivator. Liu Yao's appearance once more set off a frenzy across Blue Star, attracting countless gazes. The upper echelons of Blue Star had still not reached a consensus on how to handle the sudden emergence of this Superman or immortal. The Star Alliance and other countries were undoubtedly intent on his annihilation. Because numerous experts had already ascertained through Liu Yao's past internet postings and life experiences that the chances of him siding with a foreign power were zero. If they couldn't have him, then they certainly couldn't let Xia country have him. And so, behind the scenes, the situation grew ever more tumultuous and tricky. But Liu Yao wasn't concerned about that. At the moment, he was buying roast duck for the spiritual sparrowhawk to eat. The roast duck shop was located in a secluded alley with no sign, but Ping An was hungry and insisted on eating after catching the scent. Thinking that all 3 spiritual sparrowhawks must be hungry, Liu Yao, who doted on them, immediately went to buy some. "Boss, how many roast ducks do you have?" "Ah, I have 100 of them." "Good, I'll take them all." The owner of the roast duck shop was a man nearing 70, who used a basic phone and was one of the few on Blue Star who couldn't recognize Liu Yao on sight. But the neighbors were shocked and covered their mouths in amazement. Liu Yao pulled out his cell phone to pay with a scan code, then left with the roast ducks. All of his accounts were still accessible in Xia country, which was very convenient. In the park, the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks ate joyfully, gobbling 1 duck each. After the blood exchange, they had gradually grown fond of cooked food. Liu Yao had a taste and had to admit that the roast duck was exceptionally delicious. Crispy on the outside and tender on the inside, the cooking time was an absolute mastery. No wonder Ping An insisted on eating it. What he didn't know was that the duck shop he had just patronized was now blocked by a horde of people. The bewildered owner didn't know what to do. Liu Yao's popularity could bring a terrifying advertising effect, and many shrewd individuals had already noticed this. By the time the roast ducks were finished, Wang Kuei had called. Of course, to agree. Each of the 10 cultural relics Liu Yao had brought back was more valuable than the stone lion. From any perspective, there was no reason to refuse. Chapter 382, Travel far away to plan for the future. What the immortals desire must surely be excellent. After Liu Yao showed strong interest in the stone lion, the stone tablets and stone lions that had accompanied the people in the square for so many years were all packed and taken away under strict military guard, with only high-quality replicas left in their place. Liu Yao had previously caused a sensation with the consecration of the dragon pattern mirror, but had never imagined these large items would also be so effective. This incident significantly raised the national standards for the protection of cultural relics and historic monuments. And those 10 relics brought by Liu Yao were immediately appraised by a team of experts. Among the experts who rushed over was an acquaintance. Elder Master Qi. At this moment, Elder Master Qi was looking at the map of White Night, with his hands trembling with excitement. This painting perfectly captures the majestic and vigorous spirit of the galloping horses, making it a masterpiece of ancient equestrian art. The annotations by emperors and scholars from various dynasties elevate it beyond mere painting, turning it into a national treasure that embodies painting, calligraphy, and seal engraving. I never thought I would see such a treasure return to our country in my lifetime. Once such items are taken, they instantly become the prized possessions of other nations, with little to no chance of retrieving them. And there were 9 more priceless treasures like this. Elder Master Qi and the others, filled with excitement, carefully examined these treasures one by one. They couldn't be more authentic, as the team of experts present couldn't find the slightest flaw. After they had finished the appraisal and left, the academicians from the Science Academy immediately took over the follow-up work. To outsiders, these offering vessels now looked dazzling and maintained an unexplainable radiance, as if constantly being polished. But even with the most advanced equipment and every effort, no anomalies could be detected. Despite a clear visual discrepancy, the testing revealed nothing. While the scientific researchers were busy, Liu Yao returned to the square to claim the stone lion, along with the wish power belonging to the descendants of Yan Huang. The entire square was cleared, with only Wang Kuei and a few staff members by his side. But there were far more people behind the scenes. At this moment, nearly 100 psychologists were observing Liu Yao in real time, assisting Wang Kuei in engaging with him. Mr. Liu, everyone is curious about how exactly you started on the path of cultivation. After the question was asked, nearly 100 people watched Liu Yao's micro-expressions through the big screen carefully. A life or death resolve, and a bit of luck. It would be almost impossible for others to replicate. Liu Yao responded while simultaneously performing soul travel, guiding the immense wish power descending upon the square. He channeled it not only into the stone lion but also into his pipa, lake sword, and dragon pattern mirror. Wang Kuei paused, about to ask something else when urgent voices from the expert team suddenly came through his earpiece. Hold on, there's some impatience in his eyes. His attention isn't on the conversation, it seems he's busy with something, and it's urgent. Pause the communication. Avoid causing any displeasure. Wang Kuei immediately fell silent. But then, everyone present, including the few staff members, felt an inexplicable surge of high spirits and fighting spirit. At this moment, they were so exhilarated they wished they could compete in a triathlon on the spot. This phenomenon occurred precisely because Liu Yao had channeled the wish power exclusive to the descendants of Yan Huang. And this mighty spiritual power was inexhaustible, endlessly imbuing various instruments that had already been filled to the brim. The stone lion, as a locally born offering vessel witnessing history, absorbed the most. It then became a magic artifact under the refinement of the Yan Huang wish power, second only to a magical treasure. Following closely was the dragon pattern mirror. Upon contacting the Yan Huang wish power, the golden dragon automatically manifested without the need for mind force, leaping into the air and emitting a resounding dragon's chant that echoed through the heavens and the earth. The pipa and lake sword, as visitors from another world, absorbed less, only 1% of what the stone lion received. However, lake sword was still significantly stronger than the pipa, just as it was last time in the Star Alliance country. This piqued Liu Yao's interest. The lake sword, clearly not as extraordinary as the pipa, showed a reversal in its capacity, hinting at a deeper mystery. While they reveled in the wish power of Yan Huang, some experienced the complete opposite. At that moment, around the edge of the square, some international friends were covertly observing the situation through various devices. They came from different countries, not embassy staff members, then corporate employees, all with official identities. When the Yan Huang wish power descended, these international friends felt somewhat uncomfortable and experienced rejection, to varying degrees. And there were a few individuals who, despite their yellow skin, suddenly struggled to breathe and felt their heart rhythms destabilized. They served the very minor allies of the Star Alliance country and bore ill intentions. Sweating profusely and exhausted, they collapsed to the ground, quickly foaming at the mouth and losing consciousness. Liu Yao witnessed this scene and felt more confident about his plan. The descendants of Yan Huang are extremely repulsive to those with nefarious intentions. It will surely give the demon beasts from the other world a good thrashing. At this moment, the mission was successfully completed, and it was time to return. Farewell. Liu Yao raised his hand and beckoned, and the stone lion shrank to palm size and fell into his hand. Afterward, the golden dragon, which had grown several sizes larger, roared and arrived, carrying its master away into the clouds, leaving behind a crowd with faces full of shock. Otherworld, Fragrant Hills Jing'ai Garden, Liu Yao returned with 3 spiritual sparrowhawks. This trip back to my hometown has yielded a tremendous sponsorship. Next is to manifest the divine by harnessing the power of the descendants of Yan Huang. But my divine soul has yet to materialize, and I can only borrow it temporarily like Hong Rongkan. Fortunately, the power is sufficient. Can Elder Master Zhou, relying on the city's defenses, delay enough time? He hurried up the mountain, his mind constantly calculating. As soon as he got home, the gentle and lovely Liaoya came out to greet him. Great, junior brother, you've returned just in time. Elder Master Zhou has come to see you. The girl's eyes, even in the darkness, were bright and clear as pristine water, filled with admiration. Liu Yao embraced his graceful and beautiful senior sister. I'll go right over. It was the perfect opportunity to discuss delay tactics with Elder Master Zhou. In the main hall, Elder Master Zhou, dressed casually, was savoring tea. He had taken the life creation pill given by Liu Yao, but still exuded an aura of withering decay. For a golden body realm practitioner, the elixir seemed to not be as effective as expected. At that moment, Elder Master Zhou's brows were knit with an indissoluble worry. Having contacted all the golden body realm grandmasters he knew, none had come to aid in the fight. He couldn't help but sigh deeply. When a nation falls into decline, the first thing to crumble is people's hearts, a truth that applies across all times and cultures. At this time, Liu Yao approached. He clasped his hands and bowed. Elder Master Zhou. Elder Master Zhou put down his teacup and looked Liu Yao up and down before smiling approvingly. You're quite calm and collected, with good courage. Liu Yao replied modestly, I'm just a greenhorn unafraid of tigers, nowhere near as committed as you are. Elder Master Zhou shook his head with a smile, I'm but a bag of bones, even with your elixirs, I've got less than 10 years left. I might as well take a demon down with me to the netherworld. At that moment, the old man was detached from life and death, discussing the matter with casual humor. Liu Yao asked, the other grandmasters, they really won't come? Even just to boost morale? Elder Master Zhou sighed. They won't come. Zhang Wenda and Zhang Bohan have ambitions of independence and care about their reputation, hoping to use the foreigners to eliminate the royal family. Yuan Kaisheng is ambitious and treacherous, so there's no need to discuss him, and the other grandmasters don't want to attract the attention of the highest-ranking demon beasts. Liu Yao inquired, the highest-ranking demon beasts? Aren't dukes at the top of the golden body realm the most elite? Above the dukes, there are the kings, and the legendary blood ancestor. However, any surviving blood ancestors are in slumber. The last one recorded appeared during the Tang dynasty. An Lushan gained the essence of the blood ancestor's blood, which greatly increased his cultivation, used the heavenly demon form and heavenly demon technique, overthrew the 2 capitals, and established the Yan state. Elder Master Zhou spoke at length, and Liu Yao listened with keen interest, feeling as if the history of the other world was like a tale of gods and demons. After a brief chat, Elder Master Zhou glanced at the sky and revealed the purpose of his visit. Your plans, young lady Yu Yanmei has already informed me. Such chivalrous and benevolent intentions are admirable. However, I'm here to persuade you to leave. You're still young and it would be a pity to die in such a desperate situation. It would be better to travel far away and plan for the future. As Elder Master Zhou spoke, he took out a book from his bosom, the cover of which bore the title Essence of Dragon Subduing Palm. I am willing to set an example for the world, to let people know not all martial artists are afraid of death, not all those who govern in the temples of power are heartless and ruthless. This world, after all, still has hope. With that, He handed the book to Liu Yao. Take my life's work with you when you leave and keep a thought for our country. In the future, it will depend on you. Liu Yao didn't bother with the book, but stood up and clasped his fists. Sorry, I still want to give it a try. Elder Master Zhou earnestly advised, young man, you must understand that those who survive bear greater responsibilities. Liu Yao still shook his head, if I run now, I'll never be at peace. Don't worry, I am not a reckless man. If I dare to do it, I must have confidence. Looking at the calm and confident young man before him, Zhou Jikan knew further words were futile, for he had been the same in his youth. He handed the book forcefully into Liu Yao's hands, cautioning him. Given your own extraordinary encounters and support. If that's the case, I won't say more. But remember. If things become impossible, don't try to be a hero, just leave immediately. Liu Yao said solemnly, I understand. In the coming days, please do your best to buy time. I need to draw on the wishes of all beings to momentarily borrow the power of divine manifestation. Chapter 383, Desperate Prophet. After seeing off Mr. Zhou, Liu Yao hurriedly set aside the secret manual and took out the stone lion and the dragon pattern mirror, setting up his stall to absorb the Yanhuang willpower. Being an inherently uplifting positive willpower, its concentration, after being diluted through 2 cycles of transfer, was just right for Liu Yao's current level of cultivation. Moreover, with the aid of the dragon pattern mirror and the ice jade bracelet, absorbing it directly no longer caused any side effects. What he was doing now was not completely breaking through to a new realm, since his divine soul had not yet manifested. But with the massive support of the Yanhuang willpower, he could certainly, like Hong Rongkan had done, temporarily borrow the power of the divine manifestation of the holy realm. This method had been severely criticized by Daoist Zhou He as one of the ancient heretical arts. Though it could grant immense power, the practitioner would definitely suffer backlash. But Liu Yao was different, for he was gathering the Yanhuang willpower by the billions. It was not only harmless, its potency was far greater than ordinary incense wish power, and it even had additional suppressive effects on invaders. As for Hong Rongkan, to put it bluntly, he was merely a religious leader who at most had gathered the incense wish power of 1,000,000 followers, just a glimmer of light. If even he could use divine manifestation to defeat a great Grand Master, then the might of Liu Yao's divine manifestation would surely be far greater. Next, it's a race against time. You all disregard the rules by coming at me with 4 bosses at once, so don't blame me for cheating. While he was busy against time, the imperial city was bustling. Great Xia was on the verge of collapse, countless ants despaired and wailed, showing their ugliest sides. Some joined the nation's calamity with a desperate strength akin to that of mantises, but others took advantage of the chaos to rake in a fortune. At this moment, in the renowned tavern of the imperial city, Hui Xian Tang, Xiang Cheng, after a long absence, was sitting beside his father, negotiating business. His father was a middle-aged man with a gaunt face and thin lips, sharp chin, and an appearance that was evidently calculating and naturally cold-hearted. This man was a well-known wealthy businessman who had emigrated to Einheit years ago and been awarded a knighthood. An elder in luxurious attire fell to his knees, his face pale as he begged. Sir Xiang, please show some mercy. These are truly all the deeds and assets my Zhang family possesses. I only ask for 3 vouchers to ensure the survival of my young ones. As the coalition forces of the great powers closed in, the Xiang family, being knights of Einheit, began to openly sell indulgences. 1 voucher could save 1 life, possessing it meant that the foreign troops wouldn't massacre you. But the price, 1,000 silver per voucher. Sir Xiang sipped his tea and indifferently said. Shopkeeper Zhang, these deeds are worthless once the city falls, what use are they to me? You show no sincerity, let us end this transaction. Shopkeeper Zhang, terrified, scuttled forward on his knees and clutched at Sir Xiang's legs, crying out, name your price, and I shall meet it. This was an expression of agreement to any conditions, and Sir Xiang indifferently said. I hear your granddaughter is quite talented, proficient in zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting, and she has already mastered organ refining at the age of 15. Shopkeeper Zhang's expression stiffened. Sir Xiang continued, add your granddaughter to these deeds, and I'll give you 1 voucher. If you agree, bring her over, otherwise, let's drop the matter. With that, he nonchalantly waved his hand. Shopkeeper Zhang's face turned blank, and he stumbled away in a daze. After the man left, Xiang Cheng said to his father, your terms are too harsh, the customer might give up on the transaction. Sir Xiang smiled and replied, "He'll come back. Remember, Cheng, profit is easiest to extract from the desperate." Xiang Cheng nodded, seemingly enlightened, then his expression hardened. "Father, could you help me take revenge? That Liu Yao and Li Pei have humiliated me time and again, and I can't swallow this disgrace." Sir Xiang shook his head at these words. "I would like to help you, but we are not in a position to do so." Xiang Cheng was astonished. "Aren't they just the Xia family and Izumo? Would they dare to make you stand down?" Sir Xiang reminded him, "You shouldn't underestimate them. The Xia family has always had the backing of the Joyful Sect and Yuan Kaisheng. After Yuan Kaisheng entered the Jin Gold Body realm, the Xia family's influence skyrocketed. As for Izumo, their emperor, both a golden body and divine manifestation, is not to be trifled with, having single-handedly elevated Izumo to the ranks of the great powers. This time, though, they will have to step back, for someone else has truly set their sights on Liu Yao." Xiang Cheng was somewhat surprised. This Liu Yao was really stirring up trouble. Who else had he offended now? Sir Xiang Cheng took out a pipe. Innate true qi surged out from his fingertips and instantly ignited the tobacco. Among the 4 golden body level powerhouses who are sieging the Imperial City this time, one of them is from the Meanies Federation. Ms. Mary Johnson. She is a Duke-level originalist faction vampire who enjoys keeping human little girls as pets. She had previously sent one to the Shun dynasty to procure blood food, but it turned out to be killed by Liu Yao. It is said that this was the lady's favorite pet, and she will certainly take Liu Yao's life. Xiang Cheng felt somewhat disappointed, as no one dared to interfere with the revenge of a duke. However, on second thought, Liu Yao still had quite a few women. Especially that Li Pei, with her deadly hatred that's unforgettable, it wouldn't be too bad to vent on her. Meanwhile, inside the Prince Li royal mansion, the head minister of military affairs, Prince Li Zi, currently had a face that shifted indecisively, seeming very conflicted. Kawashima Nami spoke leisurely by the side. "There's a saying that a good bird chooses a tree to dwell in. The prince should make early preparations. My Izumo is very sincere." After a long while, Li Zi's expression firmed, and he said, "This prince agrees." Kawashima Nami nodded with a smile. To conquer a land, one must have enough patience. It takes the effort of several generations to achieve it. Therefore, one must win over and recruit a portion of the Shun dynasty's upper echelons, to serve as future proxy rulers. At this moment, Liu Yao, having grown tired from absorbing, was taking a short rest and started reading Essence of Dragon Subduing Palm, given by Zojikan. This was not only the complete work but also included the annotations and insights of past practitioners, including Zojikan. "Grasp its spirit, forget its form, the heavy sword has no edge, great cleverness appears clumsy. Sometimes forceful, sometimes gentle, sometimes devouring, sometimes spitting out, from the utmost hardness springs the utmost softness, lightness and hardness follow the heart's desire. The spirit is hard to train, the intention is hard to grasp. When spirit merges with qi, there should be intention, having no technique in mind is better than having a technique." The annotations of a great Grand Master, it goes without saying how invaluable they must be. With this secret manual, not only did he obtain a top-tier martial art, his cultivation before the Golden Body realm was also free from doubts. Zojikan truly put in great effort. After resting for a while, Liu Yao felt that he could continue and quickly resumed absorbing. And just at this moment, the rumbling of cannon fire came through. The aggression allied forces had arrived. Liu Yao did not bother with it, closed his eyes to focused spirit, and continued absorbing. 3 feet above his head, an egg-shaped ripple slowly emerged. It was early morning, and the faint sunlight shone on the ancient walls of the imperial city, casting a mottled glow. The soldiers guarding the city trembled slightly at the sight of the distant enemy. If it weren't for the burly old man standing outside the city wall, they would have swarmed out long ago. Under the public gaze, the world-famous Zojikan, Zogong, stood boldly hundreds of meters outside the Yongding Gate's moat, like a host waiting for guests to arrive. In the distance, a cloud cluster, like a massive canopy, drifted over. A westerner in a high-collared trench coat stared at Zogong with eyes as cold as solid ice. It was none other than Duke Einheit. Douglas Haig. Following him was an old acquaintance, the Rakshasa Duke Patkin, who had been scared off by Zogong in the western frontier before. The Rakshasa had the largest number of troops this time, totaling 150,000 men, and they were the most greedy. The third in line was a little old man in feathered garments, squinting his eyes and holding a wild long sword that was taller than himself. With such attire, one could tell at a glance that he was from Izumo. Fukushima Ansei. The three of them were flanking Zogong in a fan-shaped manner. Further away, a blonde woman in an elegant black dress smiled under her umbrella. She wore exquisite leather boots, black stockings on her legs, and had an iris flower hairpin on her head, exuding a dark and gorgeous style. And this lady was from the Meanies Federation. Ms. Mary Johnson. The four Duke-level enemies had gathered. Chapter 384, Apart from this person, plan for future generations. Four golden body-level ghosts were immensely intimidating. Ordinary soldiers on the walls felt oppressed merely by looking at them, experiencing chest tightness and shortness of breath. With an air of composure, left official stood with his hands clasped behind his back, hundreds of meters away from the city walls, the intention to provoke a battle clear. In their own world, where might was innate, summoning challenges and dueling heroes had always been popular, a common occurrence in all lands. The cold wind of early spring carried a few leaves, contributing to a somewhat heavy atmosphere. Everyone believed a world-class battle was imminent, waiting anxiously. But the four ghosts stared at each other, large eyes to small, and half a day passed without any of them making a move. Because they knew. Left official's leisure at this moment was actually the composure of someone who had seen through life and death. Whoever acted rashly would surely invite mutual destruction. A golden body martial artist's life-risking strike was not something anyone dared to underestimate. Moreover, all four had their intuition screaming alarms, warning their brains to be cautious. Cowardice, or rather, cherishing one's own life, is the instinct of all intelligent beings. With the home advantage, no one wanted to be the one to cover the rear, resulting in surprisingly a brief standoff. Left official wore a mocking smile, first turning his gaze to Duke Heger of Einheit. This person was known for his cruelty, utterly indifferent to life, killing and drinking blood. Even while among the stronghold of the secular faction, his behavior was completely that of the originalist faction. Meeting left official's gaze, Duke Heger quietly took half a step back, actually showing timidity. He was not stupid. This human strongman must be harboring thoughts of mutual destruction with me. I absolutely should not act impulsively. Left official then looked towards Fukushima Ansei of Izumo, raising his hand in a gesture of invitation for him to come forward and fight. But the little old man just smiled, not moving a muscle. Izumo was the country with the second largest dispatch of troops this time and even sent warships to transport other invading forces. With several invasions under his belt, left official would certainly not mind taking this Izumo expert down with him. Despite Fukushima Ansei's great strength, he used to be a spy, and his famous saying was, "The most important thing for a person is to be able to restrain himself and be patient." In terms of being cautious and valuing life, he would certainly not be worse than anyone else. The case for Duke Patkin of Rakshasa was even clearer. Having fled once already in the western frontier, he certainly lacked the courage to be the first to step forward now. As for Madame Mary of the Meanies Federation, her main purpose was to find Liu Yao. Left official was just a stumbling block. She had no reason to fight to the death, just expressing her disappointment. Isn't there a single brave gentleman willing to stand out? The voice of this female vampire was tender and sweet, extremely captivating, but her three teammates remained silent after hearing her. Nobody wanted to attract hatred and take that life-risking strike, and besides, teammates were not that trustworthy. Fundamentally, they were a band of robbers. It was impossible for them to truly cooperate. At this moment, left official was inviting challenges all around with ease, but not one of the foreign powerhouses dared to answer. Four surrounded one and were actually suppressed in terms of momentum, instantly appearing utterly ridiculous. The morale of the imperial city defenders soared, whether it was the government forces or the various martial artists from among the civilians, all cheered loudly, shaking the heavens. Duke Heger's expression became colder as he lightly waved his hand. His blood slaves immediately understood their master's intention through telepathy and shouted, "Artillerymen, aim the heavy cannon at the savages' strongmen, fire at will." Being at the Golden Body realm, they were not afraid of cannons, but if hit, they would still lose vitality, affecting their combat strength. Duke Heger intended to use the cannons to break the deadlock, searching for left official's weak point. The artillery position of the invading forces had just adjusted their firing angle, and before they could shoot, the cannons on the side of the Shun dynasty fired first. Two Krupp 305mm guns spouted intense flames and black smoke as two 400 kg shells whistled through the air. The cannonballs adjusted their trajectories mid-flight as if they were missiles, crossing a distance of 10 kilometers and striking the invading forces' artillery positions in sequence, leveling the area instantly. The ones operating the guns for the Shun dynasty were Zhou He and Master Wu Jing, two ascendant strong men. Only they could fire such exaggerated shots. Behind Zhou He was a conspicuous large box, which contained the musical instruments given by Liu Yao during the wingsuit flying certification previously. He wasn't innate and lacked true qi, and with limited flying sword combat capability, he would soon be relying on the instrument to make an impact. As Master Wu Jing loaded the cannon, he laughed, "Amitabha, this time the old monk has finally gotten ahead of his senior brother." Zhou He remained silent. After all, he was here and his senior brother wasn't, giving him the right to speak such words. He continued to load the cannon, infusing it with mind force, targeting the most conspicuous Duke Heger and firing fiercely. But the 400 kilograms cannonballs were blocked by that demon's cloud-like, giant parasol, disappearing without a trace as if swallowed by the sea. Such a heavy aura of blood evil, this demon beast truly has a terrifying ferocity. Conserve your mind force, this is just the beginning, the tough battle is yet to come. Yet on the left flank, the first to lose patience was surprisingly Madame Mary. She suddenly looked towards the direction where Zhou He and Master Wu Jing were, excitedly exclaiming. The scent of spirit cultivators. Their blood has a unique fragrance. This smell is too tempting. The allure of ambrosia is irresistible. The gates of my desire have completely opened. Madame Mary's blue eyes turned red, her fangs protruded, and she kept twitching her nose, completely intoxicated. I shall confront this Shun dynasty knight head-on, but I also claim the first pick of the spoils of war. The other three nodded, as you wish, madam. Mary looked at the left flank with a playful smile on her fair, beautiful face. In the next instant, her figure became a blur, like a television with a distorted signal. The left flank slightly shifted to the side, perfectly dodging a palm as white as jade. Mary had silently appeared behind him, her hands wrapped in blood-red energy that morphed into blades resembling rocket exhaust. The reflexes of a Shun dynasty knight are quite swift. Too bad I don't like the taste of your blood. She spoke with a voice as tender and sweet as honey while transforming into a shadow, lunging at the left flank with her hands. The speed was so fast her entire figure vanished. If not for a blood-colored afterglow lingering in the air, one might think the left flank was fighting thin air. As the two constantly clashed, the ground was marked with deep gashes crisscrossing like a chessboard. These were the residual effects of Mary's attacks, each capable of penetrating the frontal armor of a tank. Yet such powerful attacks made no sound or disturbance in the air, which was rather eerie. With Mary drawing first blood, the remaining three joined the attack. They were clear in their roles. Fukushima Ansei was half squatting on the ground, pointing his blade towards the left flank as if preparing some ultimate technique. Duke Patkin of the Rakshasas instantly appeared behind the left flank, drawing his rapier to launch harassment attacks from the side. Duke Heger controlled the blood evil that filled the sky, covering an area with a radius of 1 kilometer. The plants within this range withered into ash in an instant and the soil's moisture rapidly evaporated, turning it into alkaline ground. Under this influence, the left flank faltered ever so slightly, slowing his movements occasionally as blood-colored tentacles like telephone poles suddenly sprouted from the ground to entangle him. Their well-coordinated efforts put the left flank immediately on the defensive. He began to get hit now and then, sparks flying off his body accompanied by sizzling noises. The black and red energy wound around the vampire's weapons was highly corrosive. Seeing the left flank's weakening stance, Fukushima Ansei decided to avoid prolonged conflict and resolved to break the backbone of the Shun dynasty once and for all. If they could take him down, no one else would be able to stop the rise of the Izumo Empire. Taking a deep breath, he executed his ultimate technique, and with a bang, a 1-meter square pit formed beneath his feet. Using it for leverage, Fukushima Ansei broke the sound barrier in a blink, his blade piercing through the air with a terrifying scream as it headed straight for the left flank. The stabbing motion was so fast that the blade's tip glowed red, as if enveloped in a layer of mist. Crimson blade style. Mist blade. Facing this terrifying strike, the left flank, who had been on the back foot and taking hits, suddenly had a flash of determination in his eyes. He had been planning to take someone with him all along. Of all his enemies present, he believed the Izumo posed the greatest threat. Other powers merely saw the Shun dynasty as prey, but this nation sought to completely subjugate the divine land. The Izumo warriors were known to be tricky and cunning, and the left flank had been waiting for Fukushima Ansei to come to him. To eliminate this man, was to plan for the future generations. With his battered body, this was as far as he could go. Fortunately, the opportunity finally came. Chapter 385, Deception and Trickery Abound. The Notaki in the hands of Fukushima Ansei, named Flashing Azure Dragon, had an iridescent blade that was clearly not ordinary. It was personally bestowed by the emperor in earlier years. When he was still a mortal in the bone-tempering realm, in order to obtain first-hand information from the Western powers, he once braved the severe cold of -50 degrees to cross Siberia alone and afterward traveled a great deal in Jihad. The entire journey spanned 14,000 kilometers, and his mastery of 5 languages made it easy for him to steal information from other nations, making him an important intelligence asset for Izumo. Upon hearing of his deeds, the emperor personally helped him break through 3 realms and also bestowed upon him the Flashing Azure Dragon. These golden body level or, in other words, Duke level powerhouses, regardless of character or faction, all had legendary exploits. At this moment, Fukushima Ansei exerted all his strength to use his ultimate skill, Crimson Blade Flow, Mist Blade, and launched a terrifying attack at 5 times the speed of sound. The speed of the thrust was so rapid that the true chi attached to the blade frantically rubbed against the air, causing the tip of the blade to turn red hot, as if wrapped in a layer of mist. He didn't make a move, but once he did, it would surely be a bolt from the blue, very much in line with the characteristics of Izumo warriors. Zhou Gongzheng was tightly entangled by 3 vampire dukes, and Madame Mary was even busier in close combat. Logically, he should be overwhelmed. As Fukushima Ansei expected, his blade was about to make contact with the opponent's body. He was confident. A single thrust would pierce through the opponent, shattering the golden body. Just as he was overjoyed with anticipation, Zhou Gongzheng suddenly turned around, bracing against the attacks of the 3 dukes, and unleashed the long-charged dragon-subduing palm directly at him. The palm force exploded the air, blasting out white sonic booms. The mere shockwave was like a force 8 wind, scraping off a layer of the ground. Their attacks would hit each other simultaneously, but Zhou Gongzheng completely ignored it, clearly intent on a mutual demise. His expression was calm with no trace of ferocity, just a tranquil acceptance of life and death. Fukushima Ansei's temples throbbed wildly. At this critical moment, he wouldn't back down, but he couldn't rely on these temporary allies. Underworld of Thieves was full of deceit and mutual betrayal, and if there was a chance to eliminate a high-ranking opponent, they would certainly not show mercy. If they were defeated, it wasn't just about himself. None of the 20,000 Izumo troops he brought along would survive either. Whether it was for his own life or the responsibilities he shouldered, Fukushima Ansei faltered. His hands, grasping the blade, became unsteady, his infusion of true chi hesitated, and in the critical moment of the clash, Fukushima Ansei suddenly gripped the hilt of Flashing Azure Dragon fiercely, and his entire being was enveloped in a dim green glow, disappearing from the spot. When he reappeared, he was shockingly 100 meters away. The entire process took only a few milliseconds, it was the miraculous instant teleportation. If Liu Yao were here, he would definitely find the green glow familiar, as it resembled the dimensional door of Star Key. Seeing this, countless people gasped in shock, even the movements of the 3 vampire dukes slowed down a bit. This was not movement but actual teleportation. Unexpectedly, the Izumo people possessed such a wondrous treasure. But it also sufficiently showed the emperor's favor towards this individual. Zhou Gongzheng inwardly sighed in pity. With such an artifact, this foe was the one with the strongest survival ability present, and could no longer be killed. Then, relying on the exquisite control over his body and true chi, Zhou Gongzheng effortlessly switched from absolute firmness to ultimate softness and, dragon subduing palm suddenly changing direction, hammered toward the Rakshas's Duke Patkin. Zhou Gongzheng chose his targets, all of which he saw as significant threats to the divine land. The Rakshasas sent the most troops, a total of 150,000, and were definitely the greediest present. Duke Patkin, intent on avenging earlier humiliations, was caught off guard by the sudden attack on himself. With a whoosh, he retreated instantly, not choosing to clash head-on, even when the opponent was already covered in wounds. At that time, their side was encircling the prey. No matter how the prey fought back, they just needed to pull back and let teammates find the right moment to strike. This was a standard tactic for a group attack, aimed at wearing down the enemy without loss. But now comes the interesting part. Duke Heger and Madame Mary, seeing Zhou Gongzheng attack their ally, simultaneously slowed down, doing nothing. The reason was simple. With one less person to share the spoils, they would get a larger cut and strike at a competitor. Scum! Your souls will howl in agony inside the silver box for 1,000 years. As Duke Patkin cursed loudly, Zhou Gongzheng had already approached with an overwhelming aura. At this point, fleeing would only lead to a quicker death, so Duke Patkin brought out his full strength in response. Blood power surged tumultuously, flames of a dark red hue ignited around his body, and in an instant, he expanded, like a raging inferno of crimson fire. Lowly human race, you will pay for your recklessness with your life. Die. The bravest prevail when narrow paths cross, is a truth universally acknowledged through the ages. Duke Patkin, instead of retreating, advanced and turned into a blood shadow that pounced forward. In the next instant, the two collided fiercely. Zhou Gongzheng was all offense and no defense, letting the demon beast attack him, while the long accumulated power of his dragon-subduing palm slammed into its chest. With a thunderous boom, an explosive wave of force visible to the naked eye spread out, and the solid ground beneath their feet shattered into dust, sending dozens of tons of soil and rocks blasting sky-high, as high as several stories. Zhou Gongzheng's dragon-subduing palm had reached the transformative stage, light or heavy, hard or soft, all at his will, all his power concentrated in exploding upon the demon beast. Duke Patkin was shattered by this hit, his remains mixed with mud and rocks flying in all directions. 500 meters away, on the nearest stretch of city wall, the defending soldiers quickly covered their heads and faces as soil and rocks, carried by a fierce wind, came crashing down, making the battlements rattle and crack. When the dust had settled, a 20-meter diameter, 3 to 4 meter deep irregular pit appeared at the center of the battlefield. Smoke was still rising from the pit as Zhou Gongzheng stood tall and proud, holding Duke Patkin's head in his hand. The rest of its body had disappeared without a trace, leaving only the head, which continued to scream. Stop! Stop! The Rakshasa Empire will not let you go. Her Majesty Catherine will avenge me. Before it could finish, Zhou Gongzheng crushed the head with a clean and decisive motion. A sharp and dreadful scream echoed through the void, as the demon beast left behind a strikingly rich and vivid red ruby. The death of a comrade didn't seem to bother the remaining three powerhouses at all, on the contrary, they approached with smiles on their faces, clearly in high spirits. At this moment, Zhou Gongzheng was covered in injuries, and a hole the size of a finger pierced through his chest from Duke Patkin's final struggle. The wound, although small, had penetrated his body, with countless cracks spreading from it, his whole being appearing increasingly decrepit. Anyone could see that he was at the end of his strength. In the next second, Zhou Gongzheng was overwhelmed by the attacks of the three demon beasts. To have been able to counter-kill one in such a desperate situation was already a miracle, one couldn't ask for more. At this very moment, on the heights surrounding the battlefield, representatives of countless forces were observing the battle. They came from various sects, noble families, provincial governors, and even newspaper reporters. Seeing this scene unfold, they all shook their heads in lament or showed smirks of unsurprise. Sir Xiang wore a mocking smile. Why trouble oneself unnecessarily? Even at the Golden Body realm, one still doesn't understand the principle of preserving oneself. Xiang Cheng was overjoyed. With this battle no longer in question, we can finally go all out. Sir Xiang laughed. Cheng, let's make our way to where Liu Yao is and try to capture him alive to do Madame Mary a favor. Apart from her own strength, her father is the vice president of the Minis Federation. That country benefited from the last Great War, and it wouldn't hurt us to form a relationship with them. Xiang Cheng's face brightened even more. Can I at least keep a few of that little beast's women for myself? Sir Xiang smiled indulgently. As you wish. Chapter 386, Who is converging their mind? Left General endured several harsh blows, accumulating more and more wounds on his body, the splits in his flesh growing ever deeper. Zhou He and Master Wu Jing were filled with utter anxiety, continually firing cannons in support. But the speed of the Golden Body level experts was too fast, and they had countless methods to detonate the cannonballs prematurely. The cannons could only play a supporting role and were not decisive. At the same time, as Duke Heger gave the order, the aggression Allied forces also began their large-scale assault on the city. The two were overwhelmed and hard-pressed, only able to focus their energies on clearing the enemy's artillery positions first. But Left General's defeat was becoming apparent, and the consequences of his death were too dreadful to contemplate. At this moment, while loading a 400-kilogram cannonball, Lieutenant General Dong Fuxiang asked, "Where is young Master Liu? He's an astral projector, and this is precisely the time we need him. Where is he?" Others also wanted to know the answer to this urgent question, looking over with similar concern, while someone else said, "Grandmaster Yu isn't here either. They couldn't have run away, could they?" As soon as these words were spoken, panic spread among the people. Zhou He, his face emotionless, calmly said, "Young Master Lu has a powerful trump card, he needs us to buy time. Gentlemen, do not hesitate, focus on your tasks." No sooner had he finished speaking than another cannon fire roared out, toppling a swath of enemies. The people reluctantly returned to the battle with mixed feelings, but still with an undertone of unease. The enemy's artillery wasn't just for show. One after another, cannonballs came flying over, and amidst the thunderous explosions, shrapnel flew from the blasted artillery platform while the acrid smoke of gunpowder filled the battlefield. Simultaneously, the enemy's tanks slowly advanced, with countless infantrymen ready to charge behind them. These were just cannon fodder to attract fire. The true elite were the knights clad in full steel armor, prepared for battle, donning fully enclosed helmets with the help of their squires. Each member of the Shun dynasty's ranks was terrified, glancing occasionally at Left General's side, and the officers in charge of supervising the battle did likewise. The morale was extremely volatile. If Left General fell, this group might instantly flee in panic. And just then, everyone heard an inexplicable heartbeat. Thump thump, thump thump filled with a strange rhythm, as if resounding right beside their ears. Everyone looked around, but nothing could be found. The three golden body level experts who were furiously beating Left General suddenly stopped and turned their gazes westward. There in the distant sky, a giant egg appeared. This egg was crystal clear and semi-transparent. It seemed to be just a colossal phantom, but those with knowledge understood. This was the condensation of a heart form. What is going on? Whence comes a spirit cultivator making a breakthrough? The condensation speed is so fast. The heart form will arrive in the real world very soon. That's not right. It's over 100 meters tall. How is that possible? At this moment, whether it was the aggression forces or the defenders, or even the observers from all sides watching the excitement, everyone was stunned. The might of a heart form is generally proportional to its size. Keep in mind, at the Centennial Feast before, the Empress Dowager manifested the heavenly demon form, which wasn't even 20 meters tall, around the height of a 5-story building. But the one being condensed now was nearly 100 meters tall. Duke Heger and others were certain of one thing. This was definitely not one of their own. It must be a spirit cultivator from the Shun dynasty, breaking through to spirit manifestation. Spirit manifestation experts possessed supreme might and were exceedingly difficult to deal with. Heger made a decision instantly, his voice cold. He must not succeed first. But before he could finish speaking, he was interrupted by one of his own. All of a sudden, Madame Mary's eyes, filled with excitement, bulged like brass bells, her mouth gaping to her ears, a multitude of messy fangs protruding, her countenance becoming horrifying. What a delightful taste! I must have it. Right now. No sooner had she said this than she disregarded Left General and started heading towards Liu Yao's position. But in the very next instant, Left General was already before her, clearly forbidding her passage. Madame Mary roared with a terrifying visage, "You're asking for death." Left General paid no heed, glancing at the giant egg condensing in the sky, speaking with satisfaction, "Such an excellent tactic." Having said that, he stirred up his true qi, supporting his body full of fissures, and resolutely stood up against the three golden body level experts. Fragrant Hills Jing'ai Garden. At this time, Liu Yao's heart hadn't been exposed, and Xiang Cheng came with his son and a group of subordinates. "Father, are you confident? That Liu Yao is definitely not easy to mess with." Seeing his son doubting him, Sir Xiang laughed and said, "Who do you think you are looking down on? I, your father, have fought my way up to the leak-free realm, and I'll certainly capture those 3 girls to vent your anger." Only then did Xiang Cheng feel relieved. His father's martial path was leak-free, his spirit refinement firmness unwavering, and he surely had numerous methods at his disposal. Since he guaranteed success, it must be achievable. Arriving at the foot of the mountain, Sir Xiang's followers unloaded several Vickers 2-pounder automatic cannons from the carriage. These 40mm caliber autocannons had countless runes inscribed on the cannonballs, all of them were withering shells. It was known that these would be extremely damaging to martial artists, and a single shell was more expensive than the autocannon itself, with a single volley costing thousands of taels of silver. This was entirely a case of throwing money at a problem, and it was also where Sir Xiang's advantage lay. Seeing this equipment, Xiang Cheng felt even more assured and even personally picked up a cannon. Sir Xiang cautioned his subordinates, "Protect the young master well, if anything happens to him, your He clan will accompany him in death." The subordinates quickly agreed. Even the least skilled among these men had undergone the blood exchange, and carrying 200 kilograms of autocannon didn't affect their speed as they rapidly ascended halfway up the mountain. But as they moved on, a slight breeze brushed through the forest, and a burly man carrying an autocannon was instantly split in two. Half of his face had a bewildered expression, as if he had no idea what had just happened. The next second, Sir Xiang suddenly raised his hand, and with a clang of metal striking metal, a loud noise resounded, and a figure materialized in the void. It was Yu Yanmei. "Grand Master Yu, what a pleasure to meet you." With a skin-deep smile, Sir Xiang slightly bowed his fist in greeting, his two hands were strikingly golden. Yu Yanmei with a cold tone said, "Half-step golden body, Manager Xiang, you've hidden your strength well." Half-step golden body not only dramatically increased one's physique but also possessed some of the invincibility and indestructibility, making the body exceptionally sturdy and hard to break through. Xiang Cheng also looked at his father's hands in surprise, he himself unaware of this matter. "Cheng-er, in life, one must always keep a trick up their sleeve, even from your own parents, you must remember that." Xiang Cheng. Calmly, Sir Xiang said, "See, it's come in handy now. I'm curious, Grandmaster Yu, why aren't you on the battlefield, but instead guarding this place? I'm very curious about what Liu Yao is up to." Yu Yanmei was there to prevent any intruders from disrupting Liu Yao's plan. She had no interest in wasting words with a degenerate, took a deep breath, shattered rocks beneath her feet, burst through the air, and became a piercing cold edge as she charged into the enemy ranks. Sir Xiang moved swiftly to meet her, and the two clashed with loud clangs and sparks flying, while his subordinates used autocannons to pin her down. At this moment, Yu Yanmei's situation seemed perilous. Sir Xiang was a half-step golden body practitioner, and with rich combat experience from working his way up from the bottom. In a one-on-one fight, he was firmly suppressing Yu Yanmei, not to mention the group of followers armed with withering autocannons. They were indeed hard to deal with. Yu Yanmei, entangled by Sir Xiang, was also hit by one or two withering shells. Instantly black lines tried to burrow into her body. Sir Xiang was relentless, attacking viciously, targeting the eyes, throat, and lower abdomen, the body's weaker defenses. Just then, everyone's movements halted as they heard a mysterious heartbeat. Subsequently, Sir Xiang was the first to see a dazzling giant egg in mid-air. Among those present, he was the most knowledgeable, but sometimes knowing too much didn't bring happiness. Sir Xiang stared agape in shock, his eyes nearly bulging out. While everyone was stunned, cracks appeared on the giant egg, as if something was about to hatch. Sir Xiang grabbed his son's collar in haste and ran away without looking back, using all his strength. Yu Yanmei, while pulling out the withering toxins with her true qi, eliminated several lackeys and watched the giant egg in mid-air with a surging excitement. Liu Ziazi has done it. Chapter 387, 3 heads and 6 arms hold up heaven and earth. While the battle raged outside, Liu Yao was rapidly absorbing the Yanhuang willpower from the stone lion with the help of 3 girls. The girls were utterly devoted to him, producing willpower that was all benefit and no drawback. No matter how much he absorbed, there would be no problems. In religion, such people are called fanatical believers, holy believers. To the gods, there is nothing more important than them. At this moment, Liu Yao's divine soul had travelled out of his body and was floating 3 feet above his head, while the 3 girls formed a triangle around him, closing their eyes and chanting silently. "Junior brother, you must succeed. My lord, all eyes are on you. Liu Yao, I want to have your baby." Overflowing with positive energy, completely devoid of any negativity, Liu Yao's divine soul felt indescribably refreshed. With their cooperation, the speed at which the Yanhuang willpower was absorbed suddenly doubled. The divine soul grew more and more vibrant like a blaze fanned by the wind, having already grown to the height of a person. Billions of Yanhuang willpower were absorbed into it, disappearing without a trace as if sucked into a bottomless black hole. Liu Yao suddenly felt his divine soul connected to a wondrous world, the very spiritual world. The spiritual world and the material world are like 2 parallel lines, and the spirit refiner acts like a ladder, or a conduit, linking the 2 worlds together. The endless amount of willpower, acting as fuel, passed through Liu Yao's divine soul, slowly manifesting his heart-likeness. At first, it was just a blurry mass, but as time passed and willpower was consumed, the heart likeness became clearer and clearer until a giant egg of 100 meters appeared in the sky. The heart likeness steadily made its way into the material world, resembling a 3D printing process where willpower acted as consumable material, creating an unparalleled treasure. As cracks appeared on the egg, the willpower in the stone lion was nearly depleted. Liu Yao simply absorbed it all as a reserve. The three girls stopped their prayer, looking curiously into the sky. What kind of heart likeness will Liu Yao manifest? Why emerge from a shell? It couldn't be a giant bird, right? It's said that divine beings must go through this step upon their arrival, just like Sun Wukong emerged from a stone egg. May heaven bless him, may my lord manifest a heart likeness that reaches to the skies. The girls chattered non-stop, more nervous than Liu Yao himself. Amidst a sea of hopeful faces, an arm suddenly thrust through the cracks of the giant egg and extended out. Clearly a human arm, the girls patted their chests and sighed with relief. Knowing their lord was somewhat naughty, they feared he might manifest something unsavory. But then, a second, third, fourth hand, successive arms kept reaching out. There were 6 arms in total. This sudden development had their hearts jumping to their throats. Fortunately, in the next second, all 6 arms exerted force at once, and the complete heart likeness emerged from its shell, revealed before the world. This was a 100-meter tall titan, brawny and strong, bearing 3 heads and 6 arms, reminiscent of a mythological figure from Huaxia. The facial expressions of the 3 heads were not the same. The one on the left looked solemn and serious, the one on the right glared with eyes that seemed to be filled with anger. Although these 2 faces had shining eyes, they lacked pupils. The face directly in front, however, had its eyes closed, with an expression of tranquility and peace, the corners of its mouth lifted slightly, as if it was enjoying a beautiful dream. The 3 girls were greatly shaken, Liaoya clenching her fists in excitement and shouting, 3 heads and 6 arms holding up heaven and earth, a palm that shakes the mountains and the cosmos. Liao Qi hugged her sister's arm, exclaiming, it's the mighty heart likeness with 3 heads and 6 arms. Like Sun Wukong and Neza. Li Pei, seeing the 100-meter tall formidable heart likeness, was too excited to find words, instead gazing eagerly towards her lord. At this moment, Liu Yao himself was also incredibly shocked by the nearly 100-meter tall figure. Kong vs. Godzilla, the pretty boy from Skull Island, was about this tall. Liu Yao faced his heart likeness as if looking into a mirror. He waved his hand in greeting, and the heart likeness mimicked the gesture perfectly. Slowly, he extended his index finger forward, and the heart likeness extended its 10 fingers towards him. As the 2 index fingers touched, Liu Yao suddenly entered the body of his heart likeness. At the same time, the heart likeness's eyes developed pupils. Like adding the finishing touch to painting a dragon, it came to life, its expressions becoming identical to those of Liu Yao. It's like piloting a mecha. In that moment, as Liu Yao entered the body of his heart likeness, his perspective became 360 degrees, allowing him to see the back of his head and the top of it as well. Taking advantage of the powerful control abilities at the spirit refining stage, he instantly adapted to the body with 3 heads and 6 arms. The 6 arms moved so forcefully that the strong winds they created tousled the girl's hair. The spirit refiner possessed an incomparably terrifying physical condition. I'm on my way, you guys stick close to Grandmaster Yu and be careful. The shouting voice was like spring thunder exploding, numbing people's scalps. After speaking, he strode towards the direction of the battlefield, each step causing the ground to tremble slightly. The 3 girls looked at the mighty spirit refiner with admiration on their faces. Sui Arya was also there, looking up with a curious and reverent face. Then, they began fitting into their mechas. Even if their own men were strong, they would help as much as they could. On the battlefield, General Zhou had valiantly held out for a long time, but ultimately failed to withstand the assault of the 3 enemies. Duke Heger manipulated the dark clouds like a canopy, transforming into a gigantic mouth full of sharp teeth that bit into him. As Heger slowly clenched his fist, the giant mouth began to exert force, producing a teeth-grating sound of metal friction, along with a sizzling noise. This tool was Duke Heger's Legion-level spell. Dark Canopy, with a vast area of debuffs, curses, and corrosion capabilities, extremely suitable for group battles. Seeing this scene, the morale of the defense forces plummeted to rock bottom, with fear and confusion showing on everyone's faces. The military spirit completely collapsed. Mary straightened out her spotless dress, vigorously rubbed her cheeks, and restored her mouth, which was split to the roots of her ears, back to normal. Fukushima Ansei felt a pang in his heart. He had heard that vampires with primordial ancestors' bloodline looked like this. These demon beasts came from beyond the heavens and only started to resemble humans after intermarriage and evolution. He did not dare to stare too long, as old vampires inexplicably had a myriad of rules, and it wasn't worth provoking a formidable enemy over such a trivial matter. Just as they prepared to finish off General Zhou, kill the one with divine manifestation of mental power, and then start a wanton feast, a heaven-shattering commotion came from the west. There was a 100-meter tall, 3-headed and 6-armed sky-lifting titan, chasing after a person as small as his own finger. This person was fleeing for his life, but the titan was incredibly fast, and the distance between them was closing bit by bit. This pitiful person was none other than Sir Xiang, who was also carrying his son, Xiang Cheng. The loyal father and son came to the battlefield at the first opportunity to inform Duke Heger upon seeing Liu Yao's divine manifestation. Unexpectedly, Liu Yao was also heading to this place, and the two parties ran into each other on the way. Sir Xiang was running in a very sorry state, not normally so abysmal. But merely being near the spirit refiner gave him an inexplicable sense of oppression, as if he was carrying a mountain on his back, rarely experiencing the sensation of breathlessness. At that moment, upon seeing Duke Heger, Sir Xiang's spirits lifted. In his eyes, as long as there were powerhouses like the Duke present, Liu Yao, who had just manifested divinity, would definitely not be able to cause any trouble. Newly arrived spirit refiners are quite vulnerable, they can easily be dispersed. Thinking this, Sir Xiang mustered the last of his true qi to energize himself and charged forward, blasting the ground beneath him and shouting loudly. Duke Heger, be careful! There's something wrong with this spirit refiner. Before he could finish his sentence, the color drained from his face. The horrifying titan showed a hint of amusement on the left side of his face and then, with a thunderous boom, the air filled with the roar of a rocket launching. The 3-headed and 6-armed spirit refiner, trailing a series of afterimages, suddenly appeared behind Sir Xiang and struck out with a punch. The punch was like a strong man swatting a mouse. Sir Xiang couldn't believe it. Impossible. How can something so massive be so fast? The reality was right in front of him, and disbelief was futile. He only had time to throw his son to safety before he was hit by the terrifying fist carrying a sonic boom. With a loud bang, he was completely deformed by the impact, shot out like a cannonball and buried into the ground, creating a radial crater over 5 meters in diameter. The nearly golden body was incredibly tough and resilient. The massive force caused Sir Xiang to bounce out of the crater, skimming across the ground several times like a stone skipping on water, leaving a trail of craters large and small, before finally crashing motionless beside Duke Heger. He lay there like a slab of mangled meat with broken bones protruding through the surface of his body. At that moment, the entire battlefield fell silent. Both sides were intimidated by the 100-meter tall, 3-headed and 6-armed spirit refiner. The strike just then was merely a demonstration of Liu Yao's strength. Through the pursuit, he had confirmed that although the spirit refiner was huge, the material that composed his body was very special, and its weight could actually switch between 4 and 40 tons at will. The rest of the wondrous abilities, he thought it was just the right time to test them out on the enemies before his eyes. The expressions of Duke Heger and his companions turned grave, suddenly filled with a very bad premonition. Chapter 388, Why is it so big? Knowing too much can actually decrease happiness. JPG. Fukushima Ansei had been personally taught by Emperor Kazuhito, and since the Izumo and Shun dynasties' cultivation methods were almost identical, there was no one in the invading army who understood heart resonance better than he did. At this moment, witnessing the magnificent figure with 3 heads and 6 arms, seeming like a divine demon himself, his mind buzzed shockingly, completely unable to figure it out. Why is it so huge? Even when the emperor gathers the willpower of the entire Izumo Empire, the heart resonance isn't this exaggerated. Being able to form a 15-meter tall heart resonance was already the mark of top-notch experts, and it required gathering the willpower of the entire nation's people. This Liu Yao's heart resonance towers at 100 meters in height. Unless he has turned the entire world's population into his followers. But that's simply impossible. There must be an enormous secret with Liu Yao. Fukushima Ansei hurriedly made contact with the emperor. Lightly tapping the purple sandalwood bead inlaid at the end of his sword hilt 3 times. The bead suddenly lit up, and a commanding voice transmitted, Ansei-san, what is it? The purple sandalwood bead contained a strand of Emperor Kazuhito's consciousness, but due to the great distance and enormous energy consumption, it could not facilitate conversation for long and was only to be used at critical moments. Fukushima Ansei reported respectfully, "Your Majesty, please look." Emperor Kazuhito had just arrived and happened to witness the scene of Liu Yao sending Sir Xiang flying, and was so astounded that he was speechless. Fukushima Ansei rapidly reported, "Your Majesty, this is the heart resonance manifested by that Liu Yao. This person left his body last September, it has only been half a year, absolutely astonishing. He must have encountered an incredible fortune." Emperor Kazuhito spoke in a low voice, "In such a short time, he shouldn't qualify for divine manifestation by any means, it should only be a method of temporarily gathering heart resonance via the willpower. Test him, let me see what secrets this person holds. Your servant is willing to serve the Emperor with complete loyalty." Just as Fukushima had finished coordinating with the Emperor, he noticed Liu Yao stepping down explosively on Xiang Cheng, and then saw all three of his faces turn towards them, terror's intent brewing. He quickly shouted to his allies, "His heart resonance has just arrived in this world and is still very fragile, together we can definitely disperse it." Duke Heger, with a stone-cold face and saying nothing, his body steaming with blood-colored flames, clearly ready. Madame Mary said with great interest, "Is this the man who killed my pet?" "Indeed, this is the man." Fukushima Ansei, brandishing his sword, aimed a chop at the completely exhausted left official, intending first to break the backbone of Shun dynasty and then discuss it. The left official showed no fear. Gathering his last bit of strength, he was determined to take a chunk out of this enemy before his death. At the moment of crisis, a rocket launch like ground-breaking sound tore through the heavens and earth. Liu Yao roared forth. As the distance narrowed, his heart resonance became even more majestic and terrifying. The height of over 30 stories made the three enemies look like little mice. The three had no time to deliver a final blow and were forced to meet the battle head-on. Just as they were about to unleash a powered strike to disperse the heart resonance, their expressions suddenly changed. Upon nearing it, a strong sense of oppression assailed them. They immediately felt as if chains were thrown upon them, their bodies tremendously heavy. Fukushima Ansei exclaimed in surprise, "What is this tangible sense of oppression?" Duke Heger looked sullenly upward, only to see his dark canopy, which spanned a 10-kilometer radius, being slowly constricted by pressure, shrinking on the spot by a third. This was the Yanhuang willpower's suppression effect against the invaders. Taking the initiative, Liu Yao did not hesitate to launch his attack. His godlike robust body suddenly expanded, each one of his three faces locked onto an enemy, and his 6 fists each found their targets, unleashing with a terrifying howling sound as if a battery of cannons were firing in unison. In the deafening explosion, the area within a 100-meter radius seemed to be bombarded by dozens of massive cannons, the ground opening with large pits, and tens of tons of earth and rock being thrown 20 stories high. 3 golden body-level enemies, relying on their agile movements, dodged the terrifying giant fists falling from the sky, feeling like mice scurrying under a hammer. In just a few seconds, the scene had turned into a complete mess. The ground was full of large pits and deep trenches, having been leveled by 3 feet out of thin air, with earth and stone still rattling as they fell from the sky. Madame Mary couldn't help but roar, "What the hell is this thing?" Before she could finish speaking, Liu Yao, taking advantage of the spirit-refining state, predicted her evasion trajectory and landed a punch. Mary let out a piercing scream, her entire body like a flattened baseball, bouncing and rolling back and forth on the ground, plowing a trench hundreds of meters long before stopping. Liu Yao's arms danced into shadows, with 6 fists as big as mounds, each strike comparable to heavy artillery, not only causing heaven and earth to crumble but also being exceptionally precise under the empowerment of the spirit-refining state. Duke Hager and Fukushima Ansei successively met the same fate, being pounded into the ground amidst violent explosions. At this time, Yu Yanmei arrived at the battlefield with Liaoya and the other 2 ladies, just in time to witness this scene. Liaoya exclaimed with surprise and delight, "Junior brother has initiated blood battle in all directions using his heart projection. I taught him that." Yu Yanmei looked at the pockmarked ground and murmured to herself. Although the might of spirit-refining manifest holiness can deeply interfere with the world, Liu Xiaozi's heart projection is too terrifying. At this moment, Liu Yao was also secretly astounded. His strength was boundless, and his body, large as a hill, possessed an agility that was hard to believe. The Empress Dowager's heart projection could even catch missiles, and he was no different. Turning to face Master Zhang, Liu Yao's 6 arms all folded into a salute, saying, "You can rest and recuperate at ease, the matters hereafter can be left to me." Master Zhang nodded his head, filled with shock and yet gratified. Be careful, those three are not to be underestimated, do not be careless. Rest assured, I understand, said Liu Yao confidently. At this moment, the three enemies who had been blasted away had already stood up. Duke Hager's face was dark and threatening as he spoke first. We must kill this spirit cultivator while he's still weak. Madam Mary Johnson, I ask you to risk your life and go all out in the next fight. I swear on my own heart. After we win this battle, the Rakshas's share will be transferred to the Minis Federation. Moreover, I will try my best to persuade the Queen to help your father secure the position of president. At this moment, Mary's magnificent gown had already turned into rags, and her mouth was again gaping to her ears. Then let's begin. I'll use all my strength to kill him. To drain his blood, she sneered. Fukushima Ansei's eyebrows twitched. The current president of the Minis Federation was that legendary vampire hunter. These demon beasts indeed wouldn't sit by and let the human race govern. At the same time, he quickly analyzed, this person is too naive, he has not mastered the power of the heart projection, only capable of delivering physical attacks. The two vampires nodded repeatedly, having a high resistance to pure physical attacks, though they were in disarray, they had not sustained much damage. But in the next second, the expressions on their faces froze. They saw Liu Yao raise his hand, and a five-clawed golden dragon descended from the sky, bellowing a roar that echoed throughout heaven and earth. In an instant, the people of the Shun dynasty felt their spirits soar with fighting spirit. Even Master Zhang, covered in wounds, felt his body's functions surge, and his injuries were visibly recovering faster. Suddenly, the golden dragon wrapped around the arms of Liu Yao's heart projection, turning into a whirling golden dragon-shaped flame in midair. Liu Yao's momentum soared, and all three of his faces looked toward his enemies, bellowing, "Wicked beings, meet your death." This roar came rolling through like thunder from a clear sky. A nameless terror rose in the hearts of the three golden body realm invaders. Among the invading army, those with weaker wills simply knelt to the ground and suffocated. Chapter 389, Total Annihilation. Upon receiving the blessing of the dragon pattern mirror, Liu Yao not only looked majestic and handsome, but his heart surged with a lofty and aspirational spirit, and the courage to fight against the heavens and the earth. This was the empowerment of the Yan Wang's will, and he suddenly felt an inexhaustible strength in his body, with all his attributes skyrocketing. In the spirit refining state fully activated, utilizing the special nature of the mind image, his thoughts split into three to lock onto three enemies, and his brain planned out the movement route and battle strategy in just a few milliseconds. Then, amidst various gazes filled with worship, expectation, fear, and confusion, Liu Yao's body moved like that of a deity. A thunderous roar sounded, as the mind image instantly transformed into a shadow, followed by a huge blast wave of a sonic boom, appearing in front of the three enemies in the blink of an eye. Yu Yanmei, who was always cool and detached, exclaimed upon seeing this scene, "Star-plucking body! Thunder sound!" While the Westerners couldn't believe it, impossible. A body as big as a hill actually reached the speed of sound. The unique structure of the mind image, coupled with the dragon pattern mirror and the Yan Wang's will's blessing, had allowed Liu Yao to break the sound barrier for the first time. It was worth noting that his physical body was still incapable of achieving this. Such a massive body breaking the sound barrier immediately whipped up a level 10 hurricane, and an explosion sound reaching up to 160 decibels, audible throughout the imperial city. The soldiers on the Yongding Gate only 500 meters away from Liu Yao quickly grabbed the battlements and cannons to prevent being blown away by the howling wind, but their heads still buzzed from the intense breaking of the air. With such incredible speed, the three enemies didn't even have time to be shocked before they suffered fatal attacks. Liu Yao, focusing on Madame Mary with the face on his left, struck out with blood battle in all directions. The face on his right targeted Fukushima Ansei, blasting out blue dragon bearing sorrow. And the centrally positioned face, with closed eyes and a smile, firmly locked onto the commander of the allied forces. Duke Heger, unleashing Tathagata divine palm, Buddha shakes mountains and rivers. Liu Yao found that he could provide the mind image with true qi to activate martial arts techniques. But for such a large body, the true qi of the innate realm was simply not enough. Fortunately, he still had the ultimate techniques such as the Tathagata palm, which could be activated using the power of the mind force. Clearly, this was the trump card. The mind image's hand formed the immovable fundamental seal, and a palm struck out with a resounding force. Facing the devastating palm strike like a mountain collapsing, Duke Heger's scalp went numb. He knew that this was the moment when he couldn't show any weakness. When encountering an enemy on a narrow path, the brave prevail, the more one fears death, the quicker it comes. Fortunately, he had been preparing a deadly move against Liu Yao, and now it was just the right time to use it. Duke Eager quickly gathered the suppressed dark canopy, which was only half its original size, forming it into a pitch-black spear as long as a train car. Spear of Destiny. This was one of the rare Western spells capable of damaging spiritual force manifestations. It had once killed a great power known as Jesus in ancient times. Duke Eager, clutching the spear, bravely charged towards Liu Yao without hesitation, and the palm and spear collided in an instant. A massive shockwave visible to the naked eye violently spread, resulting in a deafening explosion. Although the dust and stones thrown high almost 100 meters up obscured the view, everyone on site knew who had won. The blast wave of the explosion was all swirling towards the direction of the aggression Allied forces, causing a sandstorm and an 11-level hurricane that uprooted entire trees. The Allied forces of Einheit and Izumo besieging Yongding Gate were instantly swept up into the sky along with various debris, and countless cannons were overturned. After the dust settled, a large irregular pit the size of a basketball court appeared where the two had clashed. The mind image's palm now had a hole in it, which was visibly healing slowly, a minor issue. But Duke Eager was in bad shape. Only 1/3 of his body remained. He was experienced in battle and had used less important parts of his body to mitigate the damage, but now he let out a terribly embarrassing and chilling howl. It turned out it was the dragon-shaped golden flames billowing from Liu Yao that had ignited him. The will of Yan Huang could not only suppress but also cause severe soul-deep injuries to the invaders. Seeing this scene, whether it was soldiers on the city wall or in the trenches, civilians assisting the defense or people from the Jianghu, all cheered loudly. Zhang Gong, Zhou He, Yu Yanmei, Dong Xiangfu, and others all breathed a sigh of relief. The gap between the enemy and us was immense, but both Mary and Fukushima Ansei were bound by duty and personal honor to struggle for their lives. The two exchanged glances, and using the tacit understanding of masters, they instantaneously confirmed their strategy. Madame Mary suddenly disappeared from view, moving so quickly that she seemed like a thread of blood wrapping around Liu Yao's ankles, aiming to disrupt the mind image's structural support. And Fukushima Ansei did something even more incredible. Standing still, he performed the Crimson Blade Flow, Mist Blade, and halfway through the move, he used Flashing Azure Dragon to teleport. The place he teleported to was right on Liu Yao's shoulder. In the blink of an eye, this fellow stood on Liu Yao's shoulder, the Mist Blade he was performing halfway through now completed, aiming straight for the handsome central face's brow. Two enemies closing in at the same time is like mice jumping onto a giant elephant. Unfortunately, this is not a game of animal chess. Well coordinated. I didn't expect teleportation to be used not just for escaping, but for attacking as well. As Liu Yao expressed his admiration, he neutralized the desperate struggles of the two with a pair of magical treasures. The dragon-shaped golden flames entwining around him were no inert object, the golden dragon roared in rage, turning into tangible sound waves that engulfed Fukushima Ansei. Fukushima Ansei's wild longsword was about to hit its target when he was shocked out of his wits by the roar. It was only for a short second, but by the time he came to his senses, he was already caught in Liu Yao's grip. All three heads of Heart Sentient stared at him, and the flashing azure dragon was easily taken away. Fingers tightening ever more, Fukushima Ansei's body creaked ominously, his violent struggles as ineffective as futile flailing against a mighty tree. The gap in strength was too vast. He cursed his luck inwardly and prayed fervently for Madame Mary's attack to be successful. Madame Mary's hands turned into blades like the afterburners of rockets. This was blood energy in high-frequency motion, capable of easily slicing through steel and with a high corrosive power, which sawed off 1/3 of Liu Yao's ankle on the spot. As a crazed look appeared on her face and she was about to continue slicing upwards along the leg, she suddenly sensed something and twisted her body. A chill ran down her spine and then she heard the sound of rapid whooshing. Looking down, she saw a hole on her shoulder, slightly bigger than a wine cup. Had she not dodged, the hole would now be in her head. Normally, such an injury wouldn't be much for a vampire, but countless black threads were spreading into her body from the wound. Madame Mary felt an instant weakness in her limbs, dizzy and blurry-eyed, as though a human poisoned with neurotoxin. Turning her head, the weapon that injured her was a strangely shaped flying sword. The Lake Sword. How is the sidearm of the legendary Einheit monarch in your hands? The next second, this weapon, known for its terrifying lethality against vampires, enveloped in a cloud of sonic booms, shot through her head like lightning. Without a head, Madame Mary still instinctively struck at Liu Yao twice before turning into ash. Fukushima Ansei utterly despaired, but an even greater despair awaited him. Liu Yao was seen tossing the creature into the maw of heart sentient, chewing it loudly, the crunching sound reminiscent of chicken. With the eerie wail unlike any human sound, Liu Yao munched away while looking for Duke Heger, who hadn't quite died yet, to finish him off. But when he found the man, he couldn't help but laugh. There was Heger, sucking the blood of Sir Zhang. Both had been severely injured by Liu Yao, but a Duke-level vampire was far tougher than Sir Zhang and easily subdued him to feast upon. Sir Zhang's body was completely shriveled, his face edged with deep resentment and bitter hate. And even though Zhang was thoroughly drained, Heger kept sucking, slurping with all his might. Sensing Liu Yao's approach, he quickly looked up and shouted, "Listen, I surrender. I demand the treatment befitting a noble." Pa, 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 spitting out the mouthful of remnants, Liu Yao looked at the vampire already regenerating half its body and sneered, "You wish." As his words fell, the lake sword shot towards its target. Heger could only howl in despair, "You're challenging the most powerful empire on this planet. The Queen will avenge me. Your soul will wail in flames for 1,000 years." As he bellowed, he grabbed the incoming lake sword, his hands immediately smoking and sizzling, and before long he turned to ashes, failing to prevent his own head from being pierced. With this, 3 golden body-level enemies were wiped out. Representatives of major powers watching from a distance were stunned into silence at the sight of Liu Yao's heart sentient. Only a few reporters were frantically taking photos, or fervently jotting down their inspirations of the moment. The Shun dynasty's defending army gave a fierce shout and charged out of their positions towards the aggression allied forces. Liu Yao eyed the lake sword with some perplexity. After killing 2 vampire dukes, the weapon sent a faint pulse of sentience, which was hunger. Chapter 390, Old Joe's Musical Instrument. All of our strong warriors had perished, and suddenly, the aggression allied forces fell into disarray. Einheit's commander, Simo, despite his unpleasant expression, maintained order immediately and commanded all artillery fire to pour in Liu Yao's direction, regardless of its effectiveness. Witnessing the brutal execution of the golden body by Liu Yao, Simo was certain. "Damn it! This human will not accept surrender. How can I die in such an ignorant and disgusting place? I must find a way to escape. There's still a chance." The main force besieging Yongding Gate comprised mainly of Einheit and Izumo land forces, all elite. On Einheit's side, most of the officers had been through the Western Front. After experiencing such hell, their nerves had become even tougher than steel. The rank and file were no worse off, and the turbaned Hedisons were equally fearless in the face of death. They clutched their weapons in silence, eagerly desiring to prove themselves before the bloodline master. These foreign soldiers possessed an extreme zeal of convert's frenzy. Izumo was in a period of ascension, with very high-quality troops already, and coupled with the fanatic worship of the emperor, they were fearless at this moment. They put on headbands written with "Victory is certain," clenched their weapons, and roared "Banzai," prepared to fight to the death. This bunch was ready to resist to the bitter end, but there were others whose hearts sank, namely America and France. They had sent 3,000 men, thinking they would just get an easy share of the spoils, but never anticipated the situation to take such a disastrous turn, facing burial alongside the others. At the same time, countries like Illyria who came just for the show were on the verge of tears. These countries had no real interest in the Shun dynasty and had only sent a few dozen people each, clearly just to save face for their allies. Looking at the swarm of enemies coming like a tide and pondering their imminent death in a foreign land, someone on the spot burst into tears. The morale on the Shun dynasty side was incredibly high. The 100-meter-tall giant, akin to an immortal Buddha, was their greatest confidence. Seeing the invading forces daring to bombard Liu Yao's heart likeness, everyone simply couldn't bear it. Dong Fuxiang, standing on the city wall, roared, "Generals! Follow me to kill the enemy and serve our country." Having said that, he swung his horse-slaying saber and led the charge out of the gate, and other generals followed in succession, with even the trench defenders beneath the city rushing out. The martial artists assisting in the defense of the city didn't want to be outdone, led by Zhou He and Master Wu Jing, ready to join in the assault on the coalition forces of the great powers. But at that moment, Master Wu Jing glanced at Zhou He, who carried a strange box on his back and had not yet reached the innate realm, and gently persuaded him. "Taoist Zhou, let the old monk take the lead in the charge. You can operate the cannon on the city wall. The enemy has retreated beyond the range of the cannon, operating it is of little significance. Rest assured, Master, although the old Taoist has not reached the innate realm, I have my ways. Zhou He explained with a smile, as he opened the box behind him and took out a very strange musical instrument. Once the audio cable was connected and the electric wire was plugged in, his fingers strummed the strings, and a stimulating electric sound rang out. It turned out to be an electric guitar. The very one given to him by Liu Yao during his wingsuit flight to path attainment. If it hadn't been for the self-strengthening movement that brought electricity, this thing would hardly be of any use. Zhou He slung the speaker on his waist, one foot resting on the battlements, and, following the music score inside the guitar case, began to play a piece exclusive to the raging brother Face the Wind drink. Master Wu Jing and the surrounding martial artists were somewhat speechless, feeling that Zhou He, dressed in a Wudang Taoist robe and playing an electric guitar, especially with sunglasses on, looked rather out of place. But immediately after, everyone felt their spirits lifted, their blood circulating faster, and their bodily functions enhanced by more than 1/3. And it still wasn't over, as Zhou the Taoist played his music one note after another. The scorching, explosive electric beats, powered by the mind force of someone in the out-of-body realm, enveloped the whole scene. What seemed like an ordinary charging speaker had the effect of a multimillion-level amplifier, and all of our people received a boost. Everyone was amazed, and Master Wu Jing exclaimed, "Impressive skills, Taoist Zhou! Your Wudang music technique is truly legendary. No time to lose, let's go!" With the background music blaring, everyone unleashed a thunderous war cry, surging towards the enemy position like a tidal wave. The invaders, with fingers poised on the triggers, looked on coldly, ready to fire at any moment. Armed with machine guns, cannons, and tanks, they were bound to inflict heavy casualties. But just then, 4 girls wearing mecha armor stood at the forefront. The ones in mecha suits were Liu Yao's 3 women and his grand disciple, Sui Arye. A torrent of bullets and cannonballs struck them, clanging loudly and sparking fire, but the girls only staggered back a few steps. They immediately retaliated with the fire god cannons. As the barrels rotated inward like an electric drill piercing through a wall, 6 barrels fired 25 mm armor-piercing incendiary bombs in succession. The shells, scorching hot, whistled out of the barrels and formed fiery lines in the air, sweeping all in their path. Wherever the fiery line passed, whether man or barricade, everything exploded and splattered across the ground, painting it red and white. Several Vickers tanks, armored with only 20 mm of steel, were easily penetrated by the fire god cannons. The shells exploded and burned inside the tanks, turning them into steel coffins. Billows of black smoke and agonized screams emerged from the observation ports, and it wasn't long before the ammunition ignited and detonated violently. With 4 fire god cannons firing 24,000 rounds per minute, their ferocious firepower meant the enemy couldn't even lift their heads and could only shrink back behind trenches and sandbags. Seeing his forces utterly suppressed, a vampire officer tore off the veil covering his fangs and, bellowing into the radio, called for artillery support. On the artillery position, a blonde, blue-eyed spirit refining gunner was continuously adjusting his elevation, aiming the barrel at Liao Qi. Luckily, the golden dragon had already taken flight, proudly roaring a piercing dragon's chant from above. The audible sound waves covered the entire enemy position, instantly subduing the malicious invaders. The spirit refining gunner knelt on the ground, feeling as if he were burning with a 40-degree fever. Maintaining consciousness was a struggle. Even those in the innate realm felt uncomfortable, their strength plummeting by at least 30%. Seizing this moment, the 4 girls in mecha suits tore through the aggression Allied forces' defenses and broke into their ranks. The others followed closely behind, charging into battle amid the thunderous electronic beats played by old Taoist Zhou, screaming ferociously. The 2 sides clashed violently in an instant, the fight so fierce there was no time to reload. Soldiers resorted to bayonets for close combat. The coalition forces of the great powers were overwhelmed by the Yanhuang forces, most being killed without putting up much resistance, and were driven back step by step. With martial artists reaching them unharmed, there was hardly any doubt about the outcome. Those martial artists defending the city, all men of chivalry, unleashed all they had learned, striking down the invaders on the spot. Even when facing enemy tanks, they were undaunted, a signal to 3 or 5 companions, and together they overturned the 26-ton Matilda tanks. The battlefield was filled with cries of warfare and the death screams of the invaders. Occasionally, when an enemy expert tried to retaliate, a flying sword would strike at the speed of sound, beheading with a single stroke. This was precisely Liu Yao, controlling his lake sword. He merely used the magical treasure to attack, without moving as much as a muscle of his heart-mind. Chapter 391, Collective Breakthrough. The image of the three-headed and six-armed heart represented a god or demon, and a casual strike was as powerful as a heavy cannon, while activating martial skills rivaled the power of cruise missiles, with infinite might. Liu Yao even controlled his magnificent body to break the sound barrier. But the real world must adhere to the fundamental law of energy conservation. If one wants to experience exhilaration, they must bear the astronomical consumption. At this moment, Yan Wang's willpower was about to be exhausted, and Liu Yao also felt some dizziness in his head. Divine manifestation was not Liu Yao's own power, but temporarily borrowed through the Yan Huang willpower. Forcibly borrowing power that wasn't one's own, not only did it consume a huge amount, but it also inevitably came with an additional cost. Luckily, the Allied forces had achieved a complete victory, and there was no need for Liu Yao to intervene too much. He glanced at the representatives of the various powers watching from a distance and collected his spoils of war with an affected composure. There was no time to examine them closely, as the current priority was to control the lake sword to kill the vampires among the aggression Allied forces. After the divine sword had slain 2 Duke-level vampires, it endlessly emitted a hungry psychic wave, which was perfect for letting it consume more. The flying sword, accompanied by the bizarre BGM of the battlefield, combined with the high spirits of the defending army, was sweeping across and inflicting consecutive defeats on the aggression Allied forces. Even though they suffered over half in casualties, the aggression Allied forces still persisted in their resistance, but once the commander took the lead in fleeing, their morale completely collapsed. Several high-ranking vampire officers took advantage of the fierce battle to suddenly make their escape. The one at the forefront was none other than the commander-in-chief of Einheit, General Simo. Transforming into a blood shadow, he swept across the low sky at high speed, escaping towards Jinmen. It has to be said that, although vampires aren't particularly strong-bodied, they truly have an abundance of tricks up their sleeves. Just an Earl, corresponding to an innate martial artist, was already capable of low-altitude flight. In contrast, even martial artists who reached the Golden Body realm could not fly, at best they could glide with the help of Qi. However, no matter how fast they run, they can never outpace the flying sword. With a loud bang, the lake sword suddenly accelerated, riding the airwaves and instantly catching up to Simo. Simo's flight speed was only 300 km per hour, and at that moment he was utterly desperate. Why has it come to this? It shouldn't have been like this. No one had expected that an expedition led by 4 mighty beings would meet with annihilation. With intense reluctance, General Simo was pierced by the lake sword. The state of being immune to physical attacks, the blood shadow, was now ineffective, starting to boil and emit white smoke. Transforming back into human form, Simo, as he looked at the sword tip protruding from his chest, suddenly realized just before turning to ash. The lake sword has always been treasured in the Royal Museum and was the spark of the World War. Little did I know it was all triggered by this person. His body, covered by spreading black lines, disintegrated into a cloud of ash in midair. After giving birth to psychic waves, the lake sword left no blood core behind when killing vampires, as though it absorbed all the essence. With the total annihilation of the high-ranking commanders, the remaining aggression Allied forces either threw down their weapons to kneel and surrender or turned tail and ran. But given their battered state, and being in an unfamiliar environment, it was doubtful they could outrun the martial artists' encirclement. With this, the conflict also came to a conclusion. The common soldiers, officers, civilians assisting in defending the city, and martial artists from all paths were all cheering wildly. Although every one of them was injured, their losses were minimal thanks to various enhancements, especially with 4 girls operating mechas to draw fire. Zhou Gong also appeared on the tower of Yongding Gate, looking down at all this with great joy. This was arguably the most glorious victory of the past 100 years. The golden dragon, shining with dazzling light, dived down at the right moment, using the last of the Yan Huang willpower to roar towards the sky with an unchallengeable and majestic aura. This roar was filled with the spiritual power of resilience, bravery, unity, wisdom, the elements of the Yan Huang willpower. At this moment, everyone was in a state of intense excitement, defending their country and repelling the invasion, mysteriously resonating with the Yan Huang willpower. Then, a miraculous scene occurred. The dragon's chant had completely ignited everyone's spiritual will, and their spirits surged as if there was a fierce fire burning inside them. Those who had fought desperately in battle were actually blessed by the Yanhuang willpower and achieved a breakthrough. Some let out a loud humph from their mouth and nose, overjoyed, "I've reached organ refining." Others sat down on the spot and, after closing their eyes for a long time, opened them and said in disbelief, I've entered a meditative trance." Even those who hadn't made a breakthrough felt they had reached the level of great perfection, only one step away from a breakthrough. Everyone was jubilant, with some who had broken through in spirit refinement dancing with joy. After being happy for a while, they realized who they owed their fortune to and hurriedly bowed their fists in unison toward Liu Yao. "Thank you, young Master Liu, for your great grace and virtue. The grace of achieving the path, unforgettable for a lifetime." Liu Yao came out of his heart's reflection and said with a calm smile, "No need to thank me, this is what you deserve for risking your lives in battle." While there was great joy on Liu Yao's side, representatives of various major powers observing from a distance wore rich expressions, doubting their lives more than once, and their worldviews had been shattered repeatedly. "I thought it was just a treasure for killing, but this willpower golden dragon can actually help one break through." "Impossible, Liu Yao is not the emperor, how could he conjure a 5-clawed golden dragon? How could he be so powerful? This is simply impossible." This battle revealed far too many secrets about Liu Yao, things that are beyond the imagination of ordinary people. The Holy Maiden of Golden Lotus sect, Li Yueshan, was also present and witnessed the entire process from beginning to end. Knowing too much was not a cause for happiness, for as a sect with a complete legacy of spirit refinement, she was more shocked than anyone else present. With such a powerful and mysterious heart's reflection and magical treasure, could it be that Liu Yao has excavated the mausoleum of the first emperor? The things revealed by Liu Yao simply cannot be explained by some so-called serendipitous adventure. An elder of the Kunlun sect muttered to himself, could it be that this person possesses an ancient lost cave heaven world? Otherwise, it makes no sense. This remark drifted into everyone's ears, and many took note of it in their hearts. Investigating Liu Yao had become the most pressing matter. With his complete exposure in Blue Star, Liu Yao finally stepped into the limelight in the other world as well, but he didn't pay much attention to it. Having come into his own, and this time being a 1v3, there was no need for concern anymore. At this moment, he was bidding farewell to his heart's reflection. After all, it was only borrowed and could not stay in this world forever. "Don't worry, I will soon manifest divinely through my own power." Liu Yao waved his hand, and the godlike heart's reflection mirrored the gesture, slowly fading away into thin air. Having already experienced it once, and with endless support from willpower, if he couldn't achieve divine manifestation, then Liu Yao might as well buy a block of tofu and end it all. By now, civilians were already kneeling in prayer, believing what they saw to be the appearance of a true god. And the martial artists, including Zhou He, Master Wu Jing, and Yu Yanmei, displayed looks of reverence on their faces, as well as immense curiosity, their hearts itching with eagerness. But even with a good relationship, one couldn't directly ask about another's secrets, and it was terribly uncomfortable to hold back. Liu Yao was about to check how Commander Zhou was faring with his injuries, but he noticed something off about his condition. Commander Zhou had also been affected by the dragon's chant and had been sitting with his eyes closed without speaking since a short while ago. Chapter 392, Things are starting to get interesting. Many things remained to be done after the great battle, and as the crowd gradually dispersed, only a few remained to accompany Liu Yao by Master Zhou's side. After observing for a while, Liu Yao smiled and reassured everyone, "This is good, he is about to break through in spirit refinement of divine fetal breathing." The faces of the crowd lit up with joy upon hearing this. 5 minutes later, Master Zhou opened his eyes. Originally as a martial artist in the golden body realm, his qi and blood were thick and surging, his eyes emitting brilliant rays of light. But now, he seemed as gentle as jade, his essence self-contained. However, when he looked over, his gaze felt as tangible as it swept across them, a sign that the force of the mind could be projected externally. Liu Yao was the first to step forward with a salute. "Congratulations to Master Zhou on advancing to the Jin realm of spirit refinement." The others followed suit with their congratulations, with Zhou He and Master Wu Jing's faces especially filled with joy. Logically speaking, Master Zhou was already a formidable figure in the golden body realm, and the breakthrough from sitting in oblivion to fetal breath was not such a remarkable progress. However, the martial path and spirit refinement have always been complementary, embodied in the saying dual cultivation of life and spirit. It is the combination of both that yields the greatest benefits. At this moment, Master Zhou sighed, who would have thought that I would experience a destruction followed by establishment? A breakthrough in spirit refinement at the brink of death. In the end, he said to Liu Yao with all due solemnity. It's all thanks to your willpower golden dragon's roar that allowed me to ascend to the spirit embryo breathing realm and practice inner vision. With this, I've acquired the coveted ability to craft the subtlety and mysterious. Being in the golden body realm is already the pinnacle of the physical form, and coupled with the power of inner vision, one can see the most intricate parts of the body perfectly repair and compensate for any damage, and maintain a state of completeness and peak condition at all times. This ability is known as crafting the subtle and mysterious. Yu Yanmi, I couldn't help but ask, what about your lifespan? Master Zhou laughed, I should be fine for the next 10 years. The crowd didn't know what expressions to make. To possess the ability of crafting the subtle and mysterious, yet only have 10 years of life remaining. This meant that had he not made the breakthrough, he might have had only a few days left to live. Master Zhou had already come to terms with his fate, having prepared for his end years ago, now gaining these 10 years was a stroke of great fortune. He patted Liu Yao on the shoulder and went to join the ordinary soldiers in cleaning up the aftermath of the battlefield. The coalition forces of the great powers had left behind a lot of equipment, which could now be put to good use. The 150,000 strong army of Rakshasa at Shanhaiguan. Since they've come, don't even think about leaving. There was much to be done after a great battle. The martial artists who had earlier flipped tanks were now gathered together again, figuring out how to flip them back upright as they had done before. Liu Yao finally had a moment to examine his spoils from the battle. It was yet another great harvest. 3 Duke-level blood cores. Just perfect for the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks in his family to break through, undoubtedly providing the definitive strike. Duke level, including those corresponding to the golden body realm, the entire other world only tallied up to about 100 or so individuals. A blood core of such level was no ordinary object, with it even a pig could break through to the innate realm. At the same time, the lake sword had slain hundreds of invading vampires and had finally had its fill. Liu Yao could feel with his mind force that the weapon now resembled an egg on the verge of hatching, with something indistinct about to emerge. In the depths of his instinct, Liu Yao had a premonition. This was a good thing. He carefully stowed this treasure and then turned his attention to the wild tachi left behind by Fukushima Ansei. The flashing azure dragon. This remarkable weapon could enable teleportation, which was quite magical, and its transmission was accompanied by a green phosphorescence, very much like the star key. The moment he took it in his hand, the purple sandalwood bead at the end of the hilt lit up instantly, and Liu Yao sensed a wave of extremely cold mind force. Liu Yao! You dare to kill my general! I will make you wish for death! Emperor Kazuhito? Nice mask! Both being spirit refinement powerhouses, the two communicated through the force of their minds, as if they were on a video call. Liu Yao could clearly see a man in a military uniform, wearing a Tengu mask. This unique form is not found elsewhere in the other world, it is none other than the ruler of Izumo. Emperor Kazuhito. Despite the vast distance of seas and mountains, the remnants of heart and mind force left by Kazuhito were about to dissipate. Liu Yao, benevolently, sent forth a wisp of multi-dimensional force to maintain it for a while longer, curious to see what he had to say. Unexpectedly, Emperor Kazuhito suddenly burst into laughter, looking at Liu Yao with great interest as he did so. You appeared on the streets of Yunzhou 4 years ago, stricken with a terminal illness and picked up by the Liao family boxing gym. Since then, many events have unfolded around you, mysterious deaths of enemies, an extraordinarily rapid advancement in cultivation, and the frequent appearance of miraculous items, whether they be armor, weapons, or provisions for every need, and then there's the occasional vanishing for days. Izumo places great importance on intelligence work and has thoroughly infiltrated the Shun dynasty. Emperor Kazuhito had already thoroughly investigated everything about Liu Yao's arrival in the other world, and he narrated the details at this moment. The intelligence work is well done, very meticulous, said Liu Yao. Liu Yao listened with a slight smile on his face until the other party reached his conclusion. The willpower you've amassed, that proud, indomitable spirit has never before been seen in this world. Moreover, your temperament, proud, lofty, and that disdain for me, and even for the Western powers. Such temperament is fundamentally different from any nation, any ethnicity, any race. Emperor Kazuhito, propping his chin, said softly. In conclusion, it seems that Lord Liu is not from this world. You're from that beautiful blue planet, aren't you? Liu Yao's heart shook tremendously, yet his expression remained unchanged. Emperor Kazuhito continued. The two worlds are like isolated islands, connected through the ocean of the mind. I happened to divine travel there by chance. It really is beautiful. Visitor from another world, your arrival has made things interesting. Perhaps I could visit your world, I vaguely remember there being a large population there. However, before that, I will devour your divine soul and gain all your secrets, ha ha ha. As his wild laughter sounded, the heart and mind force was on the verge of running out, and the connection began to destabilize. In the moment before the connection was severed, Liu Yao calmly said. In my world, your country is both pitiful and laughable, here, your fate will remain unchanged. You may as well prepare yourself for the inevitable despair and pain that's coming. A thick black fog began to rise around Kazuhito as he coldly replied, Good. I hope you can still speak such bold words when we meet. Once the connection was broken, Liu Yao took a deep breath, quickly coming to terms with the situation. The link between the two worlds is very close, it's quite normal that some know of the existence of the blue star. His star key, capable of time-space travel, is also related to the pantheism church, which might know even more. However, some preparations need to be made in advance. It's crucial to get rid of Kazuhito swiftly. Who knows if he has the capability to cause trouble on the blue star? Hurrying over to Zhou He, Liu Yao asked, Master Zhou, do you know what divine travel is? Just now that little brat Kazuhito mentioned he had divinely traveled to the blue star, prompting this inquiry. Zhou He was giving his immortal crane a massage and, after some thought, said. After surpassing the heavenly tribulation, one's thoughts become pure yang, and the divine soul possesses incredible power, capable of roaming the boundless void to witness the magnificence of the myriad worlds. Heavenly tribulation. Yes, this is the realm that follows divine manifestation. The last true immortal perished in the Inlushan rebellion, dying along with the blood ancestor of Frandi. Since then, no one in Huaxia has been able to overcome the heavenly tribulation. Zhou He continued his movements without pause, pleasing the immortal crane to the point of rolling its eyes, while expressing his confusion. All sects have sealed the records and methods of this realm, prohibiting their perusal. Even my Wudang has done the same, for reasons unknown. While nodding, Liu Yao thought to himself, that little brat Kazuhito seems to have held back, capable of divine travel. It seems it's not just the realm of divine manifestation. By this time, Zhou He, having finished attending to his business, spoke again. Thanks to the fortune of the willpower golden dragon bestowed by young friend Liu, this old deist is also on the verge of a breakthrough to the innate realm, and the upcoming days will be spent in closed-door cultivation. Congratulations! Chapter 393, Thinking along the same lines. Zhou He had been stuck in the blood exchange realm for decades, and his accumulation was already sufficient. He was also at the point of spirit refinement and out-of-body technique, so a breakthrough was a matter of course for him. However, to be on the safe side, Liu Yao still gave the old deist a bottle of 10 complete immortal pill. Originally, such a thing was not to be exposed, but things were different now. He had become one of the top fighters and no longer needed to be overly cautious. The two shared a close relationship, so the old deist Zhou did not stand on ceremony and accepted it openly. They then chatted for a bit about heavenly tribulation and divine travel, but just as Zhou He had said earlier, the sects still strictly sealed off their information, strictly forbidding its perusal, and even he knew very little about it. Liu Yao contemplated, even if the breakthrough is difficult, there's no need to seal it away, there seems to be some other hidden reason. But that little devil He Ren has undergone divine manifestation. Seeing this, Zhou He simply said, since Liu has an interest in the heavenly tribulation, when my senior brother returns, we can go to Mount Wudang together and open the sect's secret vault for consultation. Would that be inconvenient since everything is sealed up? Zhou He laughed and said, it would be inconvenient for others, but there would definitely be no problem for you, Liu. Then I shall not refuse rudely. The relationship between the two was not only close, but Liu Yao had also turned the tide and saved the people from peril. By tomorrow when the newspapers were published, he would become a person known throughout the world. Such a man, of course, need not follow the conventional rules. Having made arrangements, Liu Yao didn't linger, and immediately took his leave. Deist Zhou, I have matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave now. I wish you success in advance. Just as he reached the door, Zhou He suddenly called out to him. Liu, whether you have your own paradise or some other incredible adventure, that ambitious and vigorous spiritual power is indeed what every spirit refiner dreams of. But the old deist feels that relying solely on external objects, though energy-saving, is not entirely good. Have you considered walking the final stretch of the road relying on your own strength? Liu Yao turned around calmly and said composedly, Deist Zhou, seems like we're thinking along the same lines. Zhou he smiled and gave a fist salute, saying no more. After bidding farewell to the old deist, Liu Yao returned to Jingyi Garden with a heavy heart. I must truly achieve divine manifestation as soon as possible to face the upcoming events. I can't lag behind in practicing the martial path either, but I must not hurry. The higher the realm, the more one must advance steadily. Otherwise, a lapse in training can lead to serious consequences. At this thought, Liu Yao suddenly found the martial path and spirit refinement quite interesting. In the early stages, the martial path could be advanced rapidly with the help of external things like massages and supplements, whereas spirit refinement was more troublesome, requiring not only accumulation but also sudden enlightenment and opportunity. But as one reached higher realms, it was reversed. The martial path required solid, steady steps, while spirit refinement could use spiritual willingness to offset the need for accumulation. As he was reflecting, he suddenly heard coquettish and sweet voices coming from the bathroom. Turns out it was a few girls relieving a day's exhaustion with a medicinal bath. Just from the voices, one could imagine the scenes of smooth water sliding over tender skin inside. Liu Yao scurried over, wanting to join in the fun. But halfway there, he realized. The voices weren't just from his three sisters, but also two other familiar female voices, unmistakably Yu Yanmei and Sua Area. That made it inconvenient for him to proceed. Although martial artists were open about matters between men and women, they had their own strict etiquettes, prioritizing hierarchy and order, and did not tolerate indiscretion. Liu Yao returned to his own room and started drawing. Leveraging his exquisite control over his body from training in the martial path and spirit refinement, it took him only a few minutes to complete the drawing. The painting depicted a divine figure with 3 heads and 6 arms, standing tall and mighty, representing the artist's own spiritual manifestation. With just a few final strokes, the divine figure's arms became entwined with an imposing golden dragon. The most pressing task now is to manifest my divine soul, he mused. Only then can it be perfect and flawless, a reflection of the spiritual manifestation in my heart. I'll need Liao Qi and the girl to help more. I can possess her at will to temper my divine soul. While he thought, his hands continued to move, and the divine figure in the painting now held a pipa. This pipa charm had not been revealed before, it was the trump card left by Liu Yao. The only advantage of the pipa charm was its pure power. The higher the stage of spirit refinement, the more ferociously it could strike an opponent. As he was painting, the door suddenly opened. It was Liao Qi coming in. The sisters, all spirit refiners, had sensed their husband's return. But it was only Liao Qi, with the thickest skin, who got up directly from the bath and ran over. At this moment, she threw herself into the arms of her beloved, her voice sweet as honey. Liu Yao, you were incredible today. Your spiritual manifestation is just like Sun Wukong, beating demons and monsters until they're searching for their teeth on the ground. Liao Qi, who had just finished bathing, had her wet hair hanging loose, her skin tenderer than snow and translucent like jade. In her clearly defined apricot eyes, admiration was nearly spilling out. Liu Yao picked up his soft sister, laughing, I couldn't have succeeded this time without the help of you 3. That's not true, we hardly gave any help at all. Liao Qi, greatly interested in her beloved's painting, leaned in and added a few strokes. In the painting, beneath the divine figure's feet now floated a lucky cloud, adding a touch of humanity to the godlike spiritual manifestation. Inside the Jingyi Garden bathhouse, hot water gushed out of the marble-carved crane beaks, filling the bath and maintaining the temperature. Several tender bodies were soaking in it. Li Pei and Liao Ya were massaging Yu Yanmei's feet. The atmosphere was a bit restless. After Liao Qi had left, Li Pei and Liao Ya couldn't stop fidgeting, obviously restless. Despite teasing her earlier, they too longed to see their beloved. Yu Yanmei withdrew her feet, pouting, all right, you go as well, there's no need to keep me company. Li Pei and Liao Ya exchanged glances, gave Yu Yanmei an apologetic smile, and quickly stood up, draped their clothes on, and went to find Liu Yao. Watching the lively young girls, Yu Yanmei felt a twinge. It was hard to tell if it was envy or contentment. Liu Yao was extraordinarily talented, with a considerable fortune and incredible encounters, but most importantly, he had an excellent character. To have such an outstanding man to spend one's life with was truly a remarkable blessing. Thinking this, Yu Yanmei suddenly felt a little lonely and no longer felt like soaking. She leapt out of the bath. Her fair, flawless skin, glistening with droplets of water, glowed with a soft luminance, while the contours of her muscles were faintly visible. With a graceful yet powerful figure, supple as a panther, she slung the long chuan sword at her waist and began to patrol the garden. Lu Ziazi exposed too many secrets during the day, and tonight is bound to be eventful. The things Lu Yao had revealed held fatal attraction and would surely tempt certain sects. Though they wouldn't dare to confront openly, it was inevitable they would come snooping around. I spent the day protecting the 3 girls and couldn't move much. It's a good time to stretch out in the evening. Chapter 394, Threatening the Entire Social Order of Blue Star. Midnight, a crescent moon hung at the treetops. Lu Yao, feeling refreshed and clear-headed, stepped out of his room, carefully closing the door behind him, and locked the magical orchid fragrance inside to avoid wastage. The 3 girls were especially attentive and excited today, readily acquiescing to any request, even the usually conservative Liaoya had let loose. As a result, all the fatigue dissipated, leaving him feeling invigorated and full of energy. Lu Yao planned to return to Blue Star to replenish the power of collective will for his magical treasures, especially to charge up his transformation device, the Stone Lion. At that moment, his ears twitched as he heard the sound of something speeding through the air, accompanied by subdued screams. Lu Yao quickly moved toward the commotion and happened to see a dwarf, barely 1.4 meters tall, get beheaded by a silver blur that swept past. The silver blur halted in its motion, revealing its form, and it was none other than Yu Yanmei. Lu Yao understood and, looking at the dwarf's body, said, "A member of the thief sect." Yu Yanmei nodded, her movements graceful and elegant as she sheathed her sword, her valor enhanced by threefold under the moonlight. The Grand Master's eyes, bright and alert, sized up Lu Yao with intense curiosity, wanting to know everything about him, yet she refrained from asking, respecting the secrets of others. Lu Yao smiled and made a fist and palm salute, saying, "I will need to leave for a while, I trust Grandmaster Yu to watch over things." "You may go, I'll handle everything here," Yu Yanmei said, and had already vanished in a flash as her words fell. With her around, Lu Yao felt particularly at ease, and he found a secluded spot to open a portal back to Blue Star. Blue Star, Xia country's capital. Among the clouds, Lu Yao sat on top of a golden dragon's head, channeling the Yan Wang's power of collective will into the dragon pattern mirror and the stone lion. As a descendant of the dragon pattern mirror had an astonishing compatibility with the Yan Huang power of collective will. After several rounds of empowerment rituals, the manifested form of the golden dragon had grown from 50 meters to 70 meters in length, swelling in size like it was on steroids. Looking at the dragon pattern mirror that kept absorbing the power, Lu Yao felt quite pleased and thrilled. Such a treasure was certainly better the more powerful it became. While the magical treasure feasted, he idly took a look around. Both to the naked eye and the spiritual eye, Blue Star and the other world looked no different, like identical twins. Even the narrative threads of the world were striving to converge, despite the chaos of the overall plot. At this moment, he remembered what Ren, that rascal, had said. Both worlds were like isolated islands, connected through the ocean of the mind. Lu Yao looked towards the gathering point of the power above and murmured, "The ocean of the mind." Feeling puzzled, when a brainwave struck him, he remembered a term from Blue Star. Collective unconscious. If individual consciousness could be likened to the icebergs on the surface of the sea, each peak independent, representing individual beings. Then beneath the surface lay the bulk of it, which the psychologist Jung described as the collective unconscious. Lu Yao suddenly grasped an insight. It seems that the collective unconscious of the intelligent life in both worlds is interconnected. Spirit refinement, after surviving the heavenly tribulation, allows one to wander this mind ocean. Ren discovered Blue Star precisely through this. However, the information in the collective unconscious is cluttered and in disarray, and what he found was nothing more than traces and hints. After coming to this realization, Lu Yao grew even more eager for the realms that lay beyond spirit refinement. Having once experienced the grandeur of divine manifestation, he found his current meager state quite uncomfortable. After a while, the ever-hungry stone lion too was sated. Lu Yao then took out the lake sword and the pipa. These two items were distinct visitors from the other world, and the Yan Huang power of collective will repelled them slightly, their absorption had always been minimal. Thus, he could only use the mundane power of collective will to empower them. At this moment, the lake sword was in a special state and no longer accepted power, leaving only the pipa in need of energy. But just as he was about to channel the will of the Blue Star's populace into it, he abruptly sensed something amiss. The makeup of the power he was channeling, previously a balanced mix of good and bad sentiments at 50-50, had shifted to a split of 40-60 against him. It was normal to be loved and loathed, but such a sudden drop in reputation surely indicated an issue. Liu Yao descended in altitude and took out his PDA, a brick-like gadget, to boot up and check what was going on. He saw on the internet that his popularity was still unrivaled, which was to be expected. But numerous experts, scholars, self-media personalities, and internet celebrities seemed to have coordinated an effort to voice their opinions online. Liu Yao is extremely destructive and has a serious tendency towards violence, posing a threat to the entire Blue Star's social order. Supermen are as dangerous as nuclear weapons, they are potential serious threats to humanity, and governments around the world must not let these dangers fester. The accusations were all the same, all pointing to the threatening nature of Liu Yao, with many people exaggerating the danger. There is reliable evidence to show that Liu Yao is not a favorite of God but rather a product of a lab. He is significantly related to some inhumane and terrifying human experiments in Xia country. The crimes of the mobster are protected by Xia country and escaped trial. Threats must be eliminated by all means. Shouting smears like this on both domestic and international internet, they're definitely dogs that have taken money from the Foreign Affairs Bureau. Liu Yao was very familiar with this defamation script and knew who was behind it. After thinking for a while, he logged into his social media account, which he hadn't opened for many years, and posted. Been busy with cultivation lately, but once I make another breakthrough, I'll have to settle accounts with the Star Alliance country government. As soon as this message was released, it instantly exploded the entire Blue Star internet. It was just a domestic social platform, where likes and shares broke through 100,000 in a moment. After a few minutes, it suddenly surged to 10 million, and finally headed towards a billion. In those 5 minutes, Liu Yao took a look at the 9th set of radio calisthenics. He then revised and reduced it, adding many punching and kicking movements, and in 3 minutes, he transformed the radio calisthenics into a set of boxing techniques. The exercise itself already had decent training effects, but with the insight and expertise of Liu Yao, a grandmaster, it was excellent for strengthening the body and was suitable for all ages. But, that was it. Blue Star's rules were slightly different from the other world, and achieving bone tempering was the limit unless Liu Yao helped, otherwise transcendence was impossible. However, it was meant to be a crowd puller in the first place. Liu Yao slowly practiced the movements, using the power of mind force to control the PDA to record, and then posted the tutorial on Bilibili. This act was like detonating a nuclear bomb on the internet, countless people went crazy for it. Bilibili's network crashed on the spot, and when it was restored, many people were frantic to find the video was gone. Luckily, some quick-handed people had saved it and spread it on other video sites. Seeing this, Bilibili hurriedly restored the video to compete for traffic. After that, all of Blue Star was plunged into a frenzy. People put aside everything they were doing and focused on practicing the boxing technique provided by the immortal. Learning martial arts is initially about suffering and pain, no matter what, it's a boxing technique, countless times harder than radio calisthenics, and quite painful to practice. Not all Blue Star people manage to go to the gym daily, only a few can learn and persist with it. But already, countless fitness enthusiasts, professional athletes, rehabilitation therapists, and medical experts have stated. This is definitely an effective and practical exercise pose. It creates a high-intensity stimulus for the exercisers, positively affects the improvement of joint agility, enhances the strength of major muscle groups, and promotes the circulatory system, respiratory system, and the nervous system's functions. Suddenly, people practicing boxing became a common sight all over Blue Star. Meanwhile, the original message from Liu Yao also began to ferment. Stock markets in the Star Alliance country plummeted by 7%, triggering a trading halt for 15 minutes. Just a single sentence from Liu Yao caused market panic and stock market upheavals. As the first Superman on Blue Star to confront the military head-on, he indeed had the capital. The lack of confidence that investors had in the Star Alliance country was evident from their reaction. Especially his mention of another breakthrough had countless people tossing and turning with anxiety and deep concern. On Liu Yao's part, seeing the power of collective will slowly normalize and then divide into a mix of good and bad, he nodded with satisfaction. All this effort was for this moment. He quickly incorporated it into the Pipa charm for refinement, and then opened the gate to return to the other world. He walked away, dusting off his hands, but the earthquake he created was far from over. The two social platforms where Liu Yao logged in accumulated enough traffic in one day to match what they'd normally get in half a year. This is an unimaginable level of influence. The emerging internet giants of Blue Star began to re-evaluate the Superman. He seemed to be a cash cow. Chapter 395, Fate Toys with People. Greetings, Uncle Master. Ye, call your master and the others over. When Liu Yao returned, it was already the afternoon of the next day, and he happened to come across Ye practicing her boxing. The little girl obediently bowed and quickly ran off to call others. Liu Yao went to the training ground to wait for them, to help him with the possession cultivation, so that he could achieve divine soul manifestation and then truly attain divine manifestation. It wasn't even a few minutes before three beautiful and charming girls hurried over. Liao Qi, still holding a stack of newspapers, said joyfully, Liu Yao, your name is known throughout the world. With that, she handed a newspaper over. All the newspaper's front page headlines prominently featured the majestic spirit image with 3 heads and 6 arms, 100 meters tall. There were pictures taken from all angles, with the focus on the scene of Liu Yao killing 3 golden body-level enemies. Some journalists, dissatisfied with the quality of photography equipment, actually used drawings for the images, which were incredibly clear and lifelike. With the enhancement of martial path and spirit refinement, the hand-drawn images were just as perfect as those taken with modern equipment, flawlessly capturing the spirit image's demonic aura. Among them, the largest local newspaper in Imperial City, Jingjin Daily, wrote with particular excitement. Extra! Hidden Master intervenes, the power's entire army destroyed. Yunzhou Liu Yao reveals divine manifestation with 3 heads and 6 arms, defeating 3 demons, annihilating the aggression allied forces, and saving tens of thousands from calamity. For a long time, Liu Yao had kept a low profile in the other world, mostly dealing with modern weaponry to ambush his adversaries. This time, under the clear sky and in full view of the public, annihilating the aggressors was truly a feat that shocked the world and caught everyone's attention. Continuing to flip through, there were further reports on the matter. Countless people were curious, who exactly is this Yunzhou Liu Yao? How did he get his magical treasure and his soaring aspirations? The Golden Dragon's final roar led countless people to breakthroughs, even the left minister advanced in rank, which truly shocked everyone. Newspapers everywhere had various opinions, and even invited experts from famous sects to analyze. The nationwide circulating business newspaper invited a senior transmission elder from Kunlun sect to provide an interpretation. This individual must have encountered an extraordinary fortune. He likely had access to a cave heaven minor world created by ancient preeminent sages, otherwise, it is inexplicable. This person's guess is quite close, Liu Yao read swiftly and smiled knowingly. However, not all the articles in the newspapers were flattering. Some local papers had a strange tone, blaming him for excessive brutality, which will surely lead to massive retaliation from the powers. These also overtly and covertly praised officials like Zhang Wenda for preserving the territory and safeguarding the people, maintaining the nation's strength. Without looking, it was apparent that these were mouthpieces controlled by the governors who signed the Southeast Protection Pact and reached agreements with the powers. This issue certainly could not be left as it was, a reckoning was definitely in the future. After putting away the newspapers, Liu Yao noticed that Li Pei was silent and looked unhappy. Liu Yao then asked, "What's the matter?" With a worried expression, Li Pei said, "This time, the governors of various provinces refused to come north in support of the emperor, and the imperial court's prestige has been utterly lost. This world is ultimately in chaos." Although Liu Yao resolved the enemies decisively, this matter stripped away the imperial court's last semblance of dignity, and the central authority was completely lost. Currently, the southeastern provinces are only nominally part of the Shun dynasty, but in reality, they are already in a semi-independent state. This scene, just like the chaos and turmoil seen at the end of past dynasties, foreshadowed a future of warlord battles, rampant demonic paths, and unimaginable suffering for the common people. As someone from the royal family, Li Pei was quite disheartened at this sight. Liu Yao took out the dragon pattern mirror and manifested a 1-foot-long little golden dragon that circled around Li Pei twice, darting around her flawless, fair neck, amusing the girl and making her laugh. "Pai Pei, do you remember I asked you if you wanted to be the emperor?" "Ah? What nonsense are you talking about? Li Pei thought her lover was teasing her, but something stirred in her heart, and suddenly, she considered. With her lover's abilities, it wasn't impossible. He had risen to such heights in just a few years, and he was about to achieve divine manifestation. The more Li Pei thought about it, the more she felt it was possible, and she became extremely excited. Since following Liu Yao, her life had been comfortable, she no longer had a strong desire for power, but this was like emulating Wu Zetian, which would surely be a notable achievement in history. For a moment, lost in fanciful daydreams, Li Pei drooled a bit at the corner of her mouth. Snap, snap, snap! Liu Yao snapped his fingers several times to bring her back to reality. Your Majesty the Empress, begin your cultivation. No matter what the future holds, the only thing we can rely on is our own strength. Liaoya and Liao Qi also grinned as they gave Li Pei a formal curtsy, teasing in a sweet voice. Your Majesty, may you live a long and peaceful life. Quick, wipe off the drool. Li Pei hurriedly dried the corners of her mouth, retaliating fiercely, you two dead girls always wetting the sheets, how dare you mock me, have you no shame? The sisters, notorious for ruining bed sheets, blushed crimson with shame as they were maligned. You're talking nonsense. That's not. The three girls started horsing around, and for a moment, beauty bloomed like the spring. Having turned the tables in a desperate situation to win the battle, people throughout the north and south of the Great River, especially those in Jingzhen, were elated. But there were those who held different views. Right now, within the Prince Li royal mansion in the imperial city, Prince Li Zi looked ashen-faced and dejected. To have lost 4 golden body-level masters, along with a highly spirited and technologically advanced army, all turned to dust in an instant. To anyone else, the already desperate imperial city would have seemed impossible to defend and destined to fall. But that's exactly what happened. Li Zi ground his teeth and said bitterly, Yunzhou Liu Yao. I curse your 8 generations of ancestors. At this moment, the prince, a senior official of the military council, lost his composure. He had only just resolved to defect to Chu Yun, and no sooner had he betrayed his country than they suffered a disastrous defeat. He felt like a complete fool. Kawashima Nami, who was sitting at his side, understood his feelings at this moment all too well. This invasion, unlike other powers that aimed merely to bite a chunk off the Shun dynasty to compensate for their own losses, Izumo had intentions of permanent annexation. Conquering a land required ample patience, over several generations of effort. Kawashima Nami was responsible for bribing and subverting high-ranking officials of the Shun dynasty, to act as proxy rulers for future governance. Essentially, the collaborators. This was why he hadn't been on the battlefield that day, and he had luckily escaped with his life. The one who had been turned and defected to Izumo was none other than this Prince Li. Li Zi. One couldn't help but say that fate makes fools of men. Li Zi cursed inwardly. If he had known earlier, he would have been better off sticking to his guns instead of ending up with having dirt on him and being utterly controlled by others. In that moment, Kawashima Nami took a sip of tea, his pose and dress indistinguishable from a genuine Shun Chao person. Prince, there's no use thinking about getting off this boat now. You're an important person, and your handwritten letter, along with your twins, have been sent to Izumo overnight. With these, it would only take a blink of an eye to destroy your reputation. Moreover, the deeds you committed previously, Yunzhou Liu Yao may not let you off the hook. Li Zi bowed his head in silence. Originally just a dog for the Empress Dowager, he had thought he could become Izumo's proxy and indulge in the luxuries of an emperor. But things turned out this way, truly a twist of fate. After some time, Li Zi steadied his emotions and looked up, saying, I am ashamed, I lost my composure just now. Mr. Kawashima, I value our cooperation with your country highly, what can I do for you? Seeing how quickly this person regained composure, Kawashima Nami nodded in approval, unfazed by the incorrect form of address. Prince, there's no need to be disheartened. We just faced a tiny setback, but the outcome won't change. The Empire of the Eternal Sun will show its strength and crush the insignificant stumbling block. Next, I need you to try to save the prisoners of the Allied forces, particularly the soldiers from Einheit and Izumo. On that day, the commanders were the first to flee, and the remaining troops scrambled to surrender. In total, nearly 10,000 prisoners were captured, with Einheit and Izumo making up 80%. These were all elite troops, tied closely to governmental prestige, and they needed to be retrieved as soon as possible. Li Zi nodded slowly, Mr. Kawashima, rest assured, I will do my utmost. Kawashima Nami spoke earnestly, I will coordinate with various individuals to launch a collective effort. Prince, you will not regret your decision today. I take my leave. Farewell, sir. Please forgive me for not seeing you out. Li Ziyi watched Kawashima Nami walk away with an expressionless face. The moment he was out of sight, Li Ziyi's visage turned serious. A eunuch and a muscular martial artist in a tight outfit emerged from the inner hall. Prince, are you sure you want to get involved in this? These Izumo people never speak a single truth. I have no choice but to get involved. Don't forget, we have a feud with that Yunzo Liu Yao. Li Ziyi sighed deeply, filled with immense regret. In the past, to undermine Li Pei's father, he had forced Yu Yanmei to join the Biyang Fleet Sea expedition, already creating a deep-seated grudge. It must be said that Kawashima Nami had an excellent eye for selecting people who had no way out. Chapter 396, Execute All. 4 days on end, Liu Yao had devoted all his energy to cultivation, relying entirely on his own strength and not once called upon the power of Blue Star. Just as Elder Zhou had said. By walking the final steps on one's own, the rewards are far greater. At this moment, inside Jingyi Garden, Liu Yao was cultivating while possessing Li Pei's body. For him, divine manifestation was not an issue, for he had already experienced it firsthand. On the contrary, it was the minor realm of materialization that needed to be approached gradually. Luckily, with the help of 3 sisters who offered no resistance, his understanding and control of the divine soul grew by the day through continuous possession and manipulation of their bodies. As his cultivation deepened, the bright white flame, tall as a person, gradually began to take human shape, looking a bit like Bimax. When it became indistinguishable from a real person, down to the pores and fingernails, this realm would be considered to have reached great perfection. However, there was one inconvenient aspect of possessing Li Pei. Liu Yao, massaging his body, sighed, you can't see your own toes when you walk, doesn't that feel awkward? You get used to it. Why don't you go ask Liao Ye? Li Pei's divine soul was a small, orange-red light orb that felt warm and comfortable as he drew close. Seeing her master still fidgeting, she said, Master, please stop fiddling, it feels so strange. Liu Yao, mischievously pinched once more before his divine soul returned to his senses, and Li Pei tenderly pinched him back twice. Progress is pleasing, in another half-month, you should be able to attempt materialization. Just then, Sui Arya suddenly came over, respectfully performed a courtesy, and reported, Uncle Master, General Dong Fuxiang requests an audience. After meeting, Dong Fuxiang greeted him with a fist and palm salute and went straight to the point. Young Master Liu, Prince Li has taken the lead in rallying a bunch of ministers, claiming they want to negotiate peace with the foreign powers and demanding that I immediately release the nearly 10,000 war prisoners. Zhou Gongzheng is in the north pursuing the fleeing Rakshasa army and cannot return for the time being. Please instruct me on what to do. With such a significant matter at hand, Dong Fuxiang was somewhat uncertain and thus sought Liu Yao's advice. Liu Yao said directly, these bastards have committed grave sins, out of the 1 million people in Jinmen, only 100,000 escaped. Not one shall be spared, execute them all. If anyone has objections, let them come to me directly. Dong Fuxiang was startled, but he was a veteran of wars alongside Zhou Gongzheng, and he had even led troops disguised as the Boxers to personally kill many foreigners before. He broke into a big grin and said cheerfully, good. Very good. I like the decisiveness. I will take care of it immediately. Finishing his words, he turned and strode away, eager to carry out the task. At this moment, Imperial City was in turmoil, with the Emperor and Empress gone on a western hunt, and high-ranking officials and dignitaries fleeing. Since Liu Yao had annihilated the enemy, they were even more afraid to return, in case the foreigners would seek revenge. Therefore, the central government of the Shun dynasty was in a state of paralysis, and Prince Li Ziyi was one of the few high officials left. When he called to arms, quite a few people still answered. Right now, numerous officials gathered within Prince's mansion. These people also feared revenge from the foreigners and could not wait to cease hostilities. Some had their eyes flickering with deceit, having been bought by Chu Yun. The urgent matter at hand is to cease hostilities with the foreigners, welcome back the Emperor and Empress, and restore the normal operation of the state. Exactly, exactly. The only problem is that Liu Yao has killed so many of their experts, which will make this difficult. Alas, I was there. We could have captured them alive, yet he insisted on killing them. Without the need for any instigator, these people already harbored veiled hostility toward Liu Yao. Because Liu Yao's current fame was too great, regarded by the common folk as almost godlike. Especially those who had escaped from Jinmen, many of whom had erected longevity plagues for him. Such a man posed too great a threat. A spirit refinement expert by nature stood in opposition to the powerful and the officials. At this moment, Prince Li strode in, a telegram in hand, and the gathering of officials immediately stopped their chatter to look at him. Gentlemen! The great powers have already sent us a stern note, swearing retaliation. Einheit has even declared they will send a prince to bloodily purge the imperial city. The color drained from everyone's faces at his words. I knew this matter would surely ferment. What are we to do? Disaster. Are we to relocate the capital? The Empress Dowager has taken His Majesty to Chang'an, should we not make haste there now? Prince Li raised his hand to quell the murmurs, shouting, there's no time to lose, we must hurry to the barracks and pressure them to release the prisoners of war quickly, to propose peace talks. The officials hurriedly agreed and left Prince Li's mansion in a massive throng. But just then, they noticed many people in the streets heading toward the outskirts of the city. The next second, a servant delivered shocking news: the imperial guards were to publicly execute the prisoners of war outside Yongding Gate. People spread the word and scrambled to watch the spectacle. Yongding Gate is the largest among the external city gates, and the main thoroughfare for entering and leaving the imperial city from the south. The recent battle had taken place here, and though it was a great victory, there were still casualties on the side of the Shun dynasty. This was why General Dong Fuxiang intended to execute the invading forces here, as a tribute to the brave spirits in heaven. Before long, a crowd of citizens, packed 3 layers inside and out, gathered upon receiving the news, making it impenetrable. General Dong Fuxiang didn't care, intending to personally participate in the execution with a heavy machine gun in tow. At this moment, countless prisoners of war, bound hand and foot, were being brought forward in utter despair. In the other world, there was no such thing as human rights, the purpose here was crystal clear. The surrounding citizens cheered non-stop, and some, who had narrowly escaped from Jinmen or nearby towns and villages, bawled their heads off, unable to speak. In the other world's invasion wars, aside from the slaughter, looting, and violation of women, one could also be eaten by demon beasts. So at this moment, the public's wrath was particularly intense, and a wave of curses followed one another. General Dong Fuxiang pulled the gun's bolt, about to begin. At that moment, a distant voice shouted, General Dong, spare them under your gun. As if he hadn't heard, General Dong Fuxiang pulled the trigger, and bullets whistled out, killing a few blonde, blue-eyed foreigners. Prince Li rushed over, rebuking him angrily, what are you doing? Didn't I order you to spare them? Dong Fuxiang shrugged, I didn't kill people, I killed beasts. You. Prince Li's brow shot up, ready to berate him. But suddenly he saw that the surrounding soldiers and citizens were all looking at him with unfriendly expressions. The imperial court's prestige has fallen to such lows. Facing the indifferent or hostile gazes, even the prince himself was shocked by how swiftly the dynasty was collapsing. But Prince Li was here on a mission. Clearing his throat, he continued to shout. Hear me out, everyone. As a dignified sovereign state, we should be generous in forgiveness and maintain the peace of foreign relations. His words were cut off by General Dong Fuxiang, Your Highness, I don't understand your grand principles. But executing them has young Master Lu's consent. Look, there he comes. Prince Li's heart skipped a beat, not too keen to face Liu Yao. However, upon reflection, he had multiple methods to coerce such a chivalrous hero. All these years, Liu Yao's reputation for acting valiantly on numerous occasions was sterling, and this time he had even rushed here, risking danger to confront the invaders. Many, including Prince Li, mistook him for a naive knight-errant. Chapter 397, You Can't Kill Me. As Liu Yao approached, many of the commoners immediately knelt down, and numerous martial artists also hurriedly bowed with clasped fists, their faces filled with respect and admiration. The people were genuinely grateful, and the scene suddenly became lively. Prince Li's eyes twitched at this sight, suddenly remembering that this was the ruthless man who had torn apart 3 at the golden body level, and fear sprouted in his heart as he subconsciously looked towards the group of officials who had come with him. Standing among them, Kawashi Minami looked entirely at ease, behaving just like a person from Shun country. Seeing Liu Yao didn't panic him, on the contrary, he was secretly pleased to be able to observe this rising power from a close distance. It is widely rumored that he harnessed the willpower golden dragon's divine manifestation through sheer force of will, so he must be very weak now. Kawashima Nami nodded subtly to Prince Li. Prince Li quickly stepped forward and said, "Young Master Lu, this must not be done. Such actions will surely provoke retaliation from the great powers." Liu Yao spoke calmly. "Hundreds of thousands have died, most of whom were eaten on the spot by demon beasts, including Jinmen and 4 other cities that have been reduced to rubble. These people are unforgivable. No matter what we do, the great powers won't let us off. The more cowardly we are, the more they will take advantage." The history of Blue Star also had similar tragic experiences, but it was a pity that even after 100 years, the descendants of the robbers still took pride in the wealth plundered at that time. Prince Li said again, "That is a huge misunderstanding. The most urgent task now is to cease fighting and negotiate peace. For the sake of millions of lives, please release these prisoners of war, and let me reason with the great powers." Liu Yao became interested. "Negotiate peace? What terms have the foreigners proposed? Please, enlighten me." Prince Li's eyes shifted swiftly. Matters of state are not to be discussed lightly. "Young Master Lu, you must not let your personal feelings jeopardize the entire world." Immediately after, Prince Li looked at Li Pei and said, "Pai Pei, quickly persuade your husband. We must value peace and prioritize the people of the whole world." Just as he was animatedly jumping around, the next second, a beam of light suddenly shot out from Liu Yao's forehead at tremendous speed and entered Prince Li's head. "How dare you! Assassin!" Liu Yao had actually directly taken control of Prince Li. For a spirit-refining practitioner to manipulate the minds of high officials had always been a great taboo. Once discovered, they were treated as traitors, a crime that led to the execution of an entire family. The prince's attendants and guards immediately started screaming and shouting. But Dong Fuxiang had already surrounded them with the imperial guards, and many martial artists also pressed forward to assist. Facing the barrels of guns and the might of countless experts, these people instantly quieted down. Prince Li, being only at the blood exchange realm with low cultivation, struggled violently for a while before being manipulated by Liu Yao. His expression vacant, he recited all the news like reading from a script. The Einheit foreign minister sent a telegram, demanding that our side pay a ransom of 1 million taels of silver, execute, imprison. He recited the entire Xingkou Treaty, with slight differences in detail. Execute Zhou Gong, Dong Xiangfu, Zhou He, and all others involved in the resistance, imprison Liu Yao and extradite him to Einheit. Meanwhile, supply 100,000 laborers overseas every year, not exceeding 30 years old, with at least 70% being women. Hearing such terms, everyone present, including the military, erupted in curses. After Prince Li finished speaking, he seemed to awaken from a nightmare, gasping for air as he regained his senses. You dare! I am a prince." Liu Yao, who had quickly schemed the others' memories moments ago, said with a smile, "So the great powers themselves approached us seeking negotiations, that actually puts me at ease. The great powers are arrogant, they are never reasonable unless they absolutely have to be. If they are even slightly reasonable, it means they've been forced into a corner." Then, he turned to Kawashima Nami in the crowd and said with a smile that was not quite a smile, "Esteemed lord, wouldn't you agree?" Kawashima Nami instantly broke out in a sweat, not expecting the opponent to be so unreasonable, possessing a prince at will, and actually discovering his whereabouts. Unwilling to sit still and wait for death, he suddenly exerted force, bursting the ground beneath him, and shot off toward the east, attempting to flee for his life. Meanwhile, Prince Li fled west, intending to seek refuge with the Empress Dowager. Considering himself a prince, the spirit possession by Liu Yao was unscrupulous. This man was not some upstanding hero but a lawless rogue. Such a person, with no regard for anything, could indeed kill him. Liu Yao didn't move an inch. With a flick of his fingers, 2 magical treasures were already in pursuit. First came a loud bang as the lake sword enveloped in a sonic boom shockwave rapidly caught up to Prince Li. Prince Li's trusted eunuch bravely tried to block it but, despite sacrificing his life to bore a large hole through himself, couldn't slow down the lake sword in the slightest. Prince Li screamed as he was pierced through the thigh, falling to the ground where Li Pei personally dragged him back. Meanwhile, the willpower golden dragon was pursuing Kawashima Nami. Upon its appearance, the surrounding commoners once again knelt down, praying fervently with hands clasped. The golden dragon, with its terrifying 70-meter-long body, easily caught up to Kawashima Nami. With a swift claw strike, it precisely hit the target. But upon closer inspection, it was just a piece of clothing. It turned out Kawashima Nami had pulled a trick akin to the cicada shedding its shell. The fooled golden dragon roared in anger and once again swiftly caught up to its target. Kawashima Nami wasn't usually this feeble, but whenever he got close to this golden dragon, he felt unexplainably oppressed, his abilities inexplicably reduced by 30%. Not just him, certain officials who had sided with Izumo and were below the blood exchange realm had already kneeled on the ground, gasping for air. In just a few seconds, Kawashima Nami was grasped firmly in the golden dragon's claws, held tight in its grasp. This time there was no escape, and upon contact with the golden dragon's body, Kawashima Nami let out a pitiful wail as smoke sizzled from his body as if he were being scorched. This was the natural repulsion of the Yanhuang willpower against invaders. The golden dragon's claws slowly exerted force, piercing into Kawashima Nami's flesh. This action introduced the Yanhuang willpower into his body, producing an even more dazzling effect. Kawashima Nami's body suddenly burst into golden flames. He was set ablaze by the Yanhuang willpower. Knowing he had no chance of survival, he resisted the pain and bellowed, "The Emperor will avenge me." Then he cried out miserably as he was burned alive into ash by the willpower's fierce flames. With that, Prince Li and several officials who had sided with Izumo were all captured. Liu Yao said, "General Dong, arrange an expedited execution for all of them." Amidst the pitiful cries and pleas for mercy, Li Pei stepped forward, pointing at Prince Li and said, "Let me be the one to do this, General Dong. It may not be appropriate for you." Dong Fuxiang looked at Li Pei with gratitude and sincerely thanked her, "Thank you, Commandery Princess, for understanding." After all, he was an officer of the imperial court, although he despised traitors just as much, it was not suitable for him to personally execute a prince. Li Pei turned to Liu Yao and said, "My lord, may I borrow the sword?" No sooner had she spoken than the lake sword obediently stopped in front of her. Li Pei, holding the sword, approached Prince Li. He shouted in disbelief, "I am the Emperor's own brother, a true prince. You cannot kill me. You dare not kill me. You." Li Pei interrupted him with contempt, "Without the imperial court, you are nothing. Even the right to betray your country is only given based on the face of the imperial court." With that, she beheaded him with a single sword strike, and cheers erupted from the crowd like a roaring sea. Foreign devils are despised and hated everywhere. Meanwhile, some individuals were focusing their attention entirely on Liu Yao's magical treasures. They gazed at the lake sword and the willpower golden dragon with intense envy, longing, and greed. A few familiar faces even whispered among themselves, "This Yunzhou Liu Yao doesn't seem to be in trouble. But his cultivation is indeed only at the out-of-body realm, it seems he indeed overextended himself using the divine manifestation power, before." Two magical treasures, each with its own powerful ability, are truly enviable. Report this up and let the higher-ups decide. Chapter 398, Great Joyful Bodhisattva. Linen is the top-tier city of the Shun dynasty and even the whole world. Formerly, most prefecture governments reported populations of 1 to 2 million, but Linen was outstanding with 3.72 million, manifesting its prosperity. As the lanterns first lit up, the green pavilions and brothels of Linen flung open their doors, preparing to welcome the busiest time of the day. Xiangsayuan brothel was one of the busiest, packed with clients within less than an hour of opening. This place was a rare den of bliss, where latecomers reluctant to leave sat in the hall sipping tea and watching performances, waiting for spots to become available. In their idle chatter, they always brought up Imperial City, talking about Liu Yao. News of what happened just outside Yongding Gate spread like wildfire throughout Jiangnan within a day. Upon hearing the news, the higher-profile sects and more distinguished families seemed even more delighted. At this moment, in the most exquisite hall at the top of Xiangsayuan, a stunningly beautiful woman looked at the news on the paper with a smile on her face. This world has finally descended into chaos. Her skin was fair as snow, and while she appeared young, her eyes and brows hinted at the charm of a mature woman. She lay lazily on a soft couch, her body bare, and said, "The imperial court's credibility is completely eroded, and battle smoke rises everywhere. Tisk tisk wonderful, no need to be cautious and timid anymore." Her voice was honeyed and sultry, while she enjoyed an essential oil massage. And the one attending to her was none other than the holy maiden of the joyful sect, Yun Qinglan. Yun Qinglan was dressed in a white gown, her brows like verdant feathers, delicately massaging her master's body with her spring onion-like fingers coated in fragrant essential oil, not sparing even the toes or the area between the legs. Master, all the green pavilions and brothels controlled by the sect have placed joyful bodhisattva statues, and the disciples who have been married off have also set up offering vessels wherever possible, to help you gather volition. The woman reclining was none other than the sect master of the joyful sect, the contemporary joyful bodhisattva. Listening to her disciples' report, the joyful bodhisattva said with seductive eyes. You've done well, I can feel it. Those hypocritical moralists look down on sexual desire between men and women, not realizing that this is the great path of humanity. Yun Qinglan praised sweetly, Master will surely become a deity who controls desire, love, and even procreation, to live long and dominate the world. The joyful bodhisattva was greatly pleased to hear this. And as her disciples' massage technique went from deep to shallow, she uttered enticing moans, her eyes brimming, as if they were about to overflow with water. At the same time, a strange mental fluctuation enveloped the entire Xiangsa Yuan. In an instant, all men and women were as exhilarated as if they had taken an aphrodisiac, and even the male clients waiting on the first floor turned into lustful bulls, embracing and entangling with one another fiercely. These busily engaged people radiated a unique mental rhythm, all of which was absorbed by an arm-sized statue. The statue depicted a woman wrapped in ribbons, with clear facial features and graceful posture, so much so that one could immediately recognize her as the joyful bodhisattva. This was the offering vessel. The joyful bodhisattva statue. Made entirely of white jade, pure and sacred. As it absorbed the volition-filled spiritual power, its aura transformed abruptly. Its eyes and brows exuded spring charm, irresistibly enchanting and seductive, with endless sultry twists and turns, stealing minds and devouring souls. At this moment, in every place where the joyful bodhisattva statue was placed, all living beings were lost in bliss, offering endless volition. Many martial artists fell under its spell, without feeling anything amiss, assuming it was just a surge in mood. Procreation is an instinct ingrained in the depths of genes, the most primal desire of life. The statue merely released a special mental fluctuation to lead it. Far from rejecting this desire-induced fluctuation, the martial artists' bodies accepted it as beneficial, eagerly absorbing and cooperating, striving with all their might to produce offspring. The joyful sect, long scorned by society, based its cultivation technique and methods precisely on this instinct of procreation, making it difficult to guard against. After absorbing a significant amount of volition, the joyful bodhisattva herself was flushed all over. Refreshing, a day's work is worth several months of cultivation. Qinglan, next, your master must undertake arduous cultivation. Keep a close eye on the Empress Dowager and that Liu Yao, and report to me immediately if anything happens. As you command, master. However, there is one matter that requires your decision, replied Yun Qinglan, and then she added. Elder Duan's Hegi has been getting too close to Grandmaster Yuan, offering many disciples of exceptional talent for his pleasure, deflowering them prematurely. This has caused dissatisfaction among many of our housed bodhisattvas. The joyful bodhisattva smelled the virgin fragrance on her disciple and chuckled. Is Duan's Hegi also eyeing you? Ignore him. Once your master breaks through, all these men will become cauldrons. I've heard Yuan Kaisung is proficient in the art of pleasing women, it would be good to exchange a move or two with him. As for that Liu Yao, renowned all over for devotion to the martial path, disinterest in the joys of men and women, I especially like to make such upright men fall. Imperial City. Liu Yao, known for his devotion to the martial path and disinterest in the joys of men and women, was launching a tempestuous offense from behind his enemy. Stinky junior brother, I'm here to assist you in your spirit-refining cultivation. Liao Ya's voice sounded both like a complaint and like coquetry. Her hair quivered like ripples on water, and her face glowed with a peachy blush as she questioned. How on earth did you get a reputation for disliking the pleasures of men and women? Since her junior brother became famous, many rumors circulated about him, but this specific one she simply couldn't accept. The situation she found herself in now was a testament to how unreliable that rumor was. Liu Yao continued his motions without pause, laughing as he spoke, which of the grandmasters isn't surrounded by hundreds, if not thousands of beauties? When Yuan Kaishan's household goes out to enjoy the autumn colors, they can form several square formations. Compared to them, I'm pure as ice. At those words, Liao Ya fell silent, realizing the truth of his statement. After the sun set behind West Mountain, the wind ceased and the rain stopped. Liao Ya took a long breath, stood up to tidy herself, and then, biting her pearl-like teeth, asked, "You've had your fun, so how's your cultivation coming along?" Liu Yao savored the moment before praising unabashedly, "Sister, your hips are broader than your shoulders, it's really satisfying. Who cares about cultivating?" Liao Ya's cheeks turned crimson, her eyes watery, "Stinky junior brother. Big pervert," and with those words, she even started to pummel Liu Yao. Liu Yao quickly said, "Sister, don't be hasty, look." As he spoke, a luminous figure streaked from his brow. An identical Liu Yao. This Liu Yao radiated white light and lacked pupils, resembling a holographic image from a sci-fi movie, and was extremely lifelike. Liao Ya curiously reached out to touch it, but her hand passed right through. The divine soul was just an illusion, only after enduring the heavenly tribulation could it transform from illusion to reality. Curious, she asked, "Junior brother, is this your soul manifestation?" Liu Yao explained, "There's still one last step, adding the pupils. The divine soul has no pupils. When the eyes become like those of ordinary people, that's when it's complete. To achieve such progress in such a short time is truly rapid advancement." Liao Ya patted her chest, relieved, "That's great, I was worried I might disturb your cultivation." Every time, her junior brother would involve her in creating little humans, and she feared she might be a hindrance to his cultivation. Liu Yao held her and expressed his sincere gratitude, "How could you be a hindrance? I should thank you all for your help." Normally, even if one were willing 1,000 times over, the body would instinctively reject a foreign divine soul. After all, once possessed, one's life and death would be in someone else's hands. This was why spirit refiners usually had to expend tremendous effort and mind force to successfully possess a body. Yet, the three girls harbored not a shred of wariness toward Liu Yao, openly allowing him to possess them with ease. As a result, Liu Yao could immerse himself completely into his cultivation, focusing solely on practicing his soul control ability through possession. He felt extremely fortunate to have met these three girls devoted to him wholeheartedly. At that moment, Liao Ya asked, "Junior brother, is the step of adding the pupils quite difficult? Many immortals in the stories have stumbled at this stage." "It's okay, not too difficult," Liu Yao lied casually, although in truth, this step was indeed challenging. It was the first step in the qualitative change of the divine soul. Only after adding the pupils would the soul manifestation truly take form, animating with life. With bad luck, this step could indeed take a year or even longer to complete. Liao Ya had no reason to doubt him, her gaze filled with tender affection. "That's good then. Junior brother, I'm also going to try to break through to the innate realm." Liu Ya responded with a smile, "Congratulations to sect leader big sister." Seeing him with that cheeky, joking expression, Liao Ya admonished fondly, "Don't be so smug. Li Pei and Liao Qi are close too. You'll see when the three of us reach the innate realm, you're going to be in for it." Liu Yao was unconcerned. He had not neglected the tempering of his own physical body, and within the same realm, he feared no 1v3. After a few moments of laughter and teasing, Liao Ya moved her taut waist and swayed her beautiful hips as she left. Liu Yao controlled the lake sword to fly around himself. At this moment, he could control the flying sword up to a distance of 30 kilometers, and once his soul manifested, this distance would at least triple to 100 kilometers. The Wudang sect had secret methods to extend it to 500 kilometers. Soul manifestation had many benefits and was a prerequisite for attaining the divine manifestation of the Holy Realm, but unfortunately, it required some time to break through. And time was precisely what Liu Yao lacked most right now. He ran small devil's retaliation, the prying eyes of other powerful competitors. All these required strength to suppress. As Liu Yao pondered, the lake sword suddenly transmitted heart pulse-like spiritual fluctuations. Immediately after, a hologram-like young girl burst forth from it. Just like Liu Yao's soul, she too lacked pupils. But as her eyes opened and closed, she gained a pair of striking green pupils. Chapter 399, Every word spoken will surely be known. When the lake sword began pulsing with a heartbeat-like fluctuation, Liu Yao hurriedly summoned it back. He was very familiar with this fluctuation, as it was the same movement when the three spiritual sparrowhawks had hatched, signifying the birth of life. Indeed, before long, a girl emerged from the sword, the scene resembling soul travel. Upon closer inspection, he saw that the girl was dressed in a Gothic-style purple dress with dazzling golden hair like the sun, complementing her skin that was as white and lustrous as jade. Her figure was lithe and graceful, her slender waist delicate and ungraspable, and her appearance was stunningly beautiful with a hint of valiance, 3 parts dignity and nobility that commanded solemn respect and made one hesitant to look directly at her. The only thing was, her eyes lacked pupils, just like Liu Yao's divine soul at this moment. But the next second, she blinked and pupils appeared. They were gem-like emerald eyes. Their depth was filled with spirit, the clear watery pupils untainted by any dust. Her gaze, carrying a trace of overwhelming dignity, swept across the area. Liu Yao didn't have time to admire the beauty with exotic charm and promptly fully activated his spirit-refining state, carefully noting how she opened her eyes. Just as he was vexed about how to open his eyes, a demonstration unexpectedly appeared, like a timely rain. For a moment, neither of them spoke. After a few seconds, Liu Yao digested all that he had learned and took the initiative to greet her. "Hi, nice to meet you." The golden-haired girl frowned slightly and asked in fluent summer tongue, "Qin people? What year is it now?" Her voice was crisp and sweet, extremely pleasing to the ear, but carried the air of a superior. Liu Yao looked at her striking golden hair and green eyes, answering, 1918, it's been over 2,000 years since the Qin dynasty. 2,000 years. The girl's expression stiffened, seemingly deeply shocked. Then her form blurred and she suddenly shot into the sky to take a look around. Liu Yao then confirmed that she did not have a physical body, but was something similar to a spirit essence. At the same time, he sensed the vastness of her mind force, and startled, thought, such a strong mental fluctuation. The girl looked around in the sky for a while, and after absorbing some stray thoughts, was convinced that this was not her era. She slowly descended to the ground, looking at the second sun in the sky, feeling somewhat lost and confused. In the end, we were defeated. A thought occurred to Liu Yao that this antique from 2,000 years ago seemed to know a lot of things. Once the girl calmed down a bit, he spoke again, "My name is Liu Yao, may I ask how to address you?" The girl instinctively cleared her throat, and with a dignified air of authority, she said, "I am the King of Knights, the Terminator of Vampires, the Savior of Avalon." As she spoke, her interest waned and she sighed, "Never mind, that's all in the past. I am Fran Pendragon, you can just call me Fran." "Nice to meet you, Miss Fran. Why were you inside my sword?" "To correct you, it is my sword." Fran gestured, and the lake sword flew over to her. "It preserved an essence of my spirit when I was on the brink of death, so I might one day resurrect, not expecting it to be 2,000 years later." Fran manipulated the lake sword to fly around, bursting continuously, and nodded in approval, "It has been refined well, its power has grown somewhat stronger than before, so I won't take offense at your unauthorized use." The lake sword had been taken by Liu Yao to Blue Star and had been refined several times with the power of collective will, which was the main reason Fran was able to come back to life. At that moment, Liu Yao casually beckoned, and the lake sword flew back to his side. "Regarding the sword, we need to have another talk." Fran's expression darkened, and she immediately exerted force to snatch it back. The sword held great significance and could not be controlled by others. But the lake sword didn't respond to her. This was the vessel that bore her soul, inherently under her own command, notably since the young man's spiritual power paled in comparison to hers. Occupying such an advantage and still not being able to surpass him, there could be only one explanation. The sword had been completely refined. "You, how much willpower did you expend to refine it? Are you the ruler of this land?" Fran looked at Liu Yao with a surprised expression. To achieve such an effect must have come at a great cost, at least the willpower of 100 million people. Liu Yao shrugged and said, "Not that much. But I had a hard time snatching this sword from the hands of a vampire, and I put a lot of effort into it, so it wouldn't be right to just take it away, would it?" Fran's pretty face became stern, with an untouchable air about her. "Thank you for what you've done, and I know that without your help, I might still be asleep until my soul perished, but I cannot give up the lake sword. My mother was a half-god who had undergone the thunder baptism, and before she died, she turned her spine into this sword to leave for me. It's all I have left of her." Liu Yao then understood why the lake sword had such a strange shape. It was transformed from the bones of a mighty being. He quickly released his control over the lake sword. "I see, my apologies." Fran's expression softened slightly as she took a deep look at Liu Yao, silently took back the lake sword, and gently caressed it with her hand. Liu Yao continued, "I have a few questions I'd like to ask." Fran nodded, "Go ahead." Liu Yao's biggest quandary, of course, was the monster that floated in the planet's synchronous orbit, like a planet itself. He pointed at the smaller and dimmer sun above, and said, "This freakish thing." But before he could finish, Fran's face turned pale with shock, and she dashed over like lightning to cover his mouth, while her other hand's forefinger was placed to her lips, shushing him. Liu Yao immediately stopped talking. Fran let go of her hand and whispered, "Every spoken word is known." A chill went down Liu Yao's spine. It appeared this monster had such mighty power. We should communicate with mind force. With his divine soul traveling, Liu Yao reached out with his mind force and connected with Fran, and only then did she boldly start to explain. That star-like monster is an outer realm evil god that descended upon our world 2000 years ago, revealing unmatched power. It only needed its voice to willingly fuse flesh and life into itself. The Emperor of Qin rose up in rebellion and dealt it a heavy blow with an attack targeted at the soul, but the Emperor of Qin himself was also gravely injured. After all these years, the evil god still lingers in the sky. It seems that, in the end, the Emperor of Qin was defeated. Liu Yao fell into silence, pondering. These claims were not very different from his own guesses, though they were a bit vague. Fran added, "I apologize, I also don't know much. My mother fought alongside the Emperor of Qin, it was the affair of their generation. I was very young when my mother passed away, and the vampires I fought against were merely the evil god's kin. Shamefully, I was defeated by their cunning plots. But, why is the world still here? Logically, with the power of the evil god, it could easily crush our world." Fran was somewhat puzzled. The Emperor of Qin had gathered all the strongest beings in the world at the time for the battle, and still couldn't win. It didn't seem like the evil god would be so kind as to spare the world. At this moment, Liu Yao spoke, "Let's set aside the questions for now. In time, we'll have the chance to find out. So, Fran, what are your plans going forward?" Upon hearing this, Fran's face turned stern again. "Moving forward, of course, is to reconstruct my flesh body. Liu Yao, would you be willing to become my knight? My reward will certainly be very generous." Chapter 400, Holy Knight. In myth, the Holy King of the Western human race now has only a wisp of divine soul left and must beseech the aid of others to reconstruct his body, which is akin to a phoenix fallen to the ground, less than a chicken. But Fran still spoke with sharp eyes and an energetic spirit, coupled with a hint of commanding pride. The confident way she held her head high and stuck out her chest, as if she had granted Liu Yao a great favor, was both amusing and laughable. However, this young lady was a hero who resisted vampires in ancient times, so she's an ally. And quite faithful at that, having demonstrated divine manifestation straight away in resolving Liu Yao's urgent problem. So he smiled and promised, "Don't worry, I will help you reconstruct your body." Fran let out a long sigh of relief in her heart, her expression softened, showing a look of satisfaction as if teaching a promising child. "From today on, you are my knight. Let's call you Holy Knight. I am a generous king, and will not treat you unfairly." The innocent and bright appearance of the girl piqued Liu Yao's curiosity. "How old are you?" Fran thought about it and said, 14. "Oh no, 15, 16 years old, that's right, it's 16. Liu Yao. Your age seems rather flexible." Although the girl had a curvaceous figure, her face still bore a touch of childishness, clearly not yet matured, but her elegant and noble demeanor, along with her blonde hair and blue eyes, made her seem more mature. Liu Yao had a hunch. The first age she mentioned was the real one. At that moment, Fran leaned closer, and with a sweet voice carrying a hint of command, she said, "My holy knight, I am a bit hungry, go prepare 2 Baron-level vampire blood cores and some of your life essence." "Life essence? Is this what you mean?" Liu Yao passed over a strand of innate true qi. Fran quickly maneuvered the lake sword closer to absorb it. "Yes, that's it. The soul needs the nourishment of the body, your life essence makes me feel very comfortable." The true qi poured continuously and the girl closed her eyes to enjoy it, her beautiful otherworldly face showing deep contentment. After a few minutes, Liu Yao had consumed nearly half of his true qi before he had fed her enough. "You really can eat quite a lot." Fran opened her eyes and said, "I just awakened, and my soul needs replenishment." "Holy Knight, don't be so stingy, I won't shortchange you. And don't forget the 2 blood cores." "What do you want the blood cores for?" "Dessert after meal." Liu Yao suddenly felt that agreeing to this girl might have been a mistake, but then he remembered that he was indeed not lacking in blood cores. Not only had Fu Fangsheng given him many, but the blood cores obtained from annihilating the coalition forces of the great powers were also delivered by Left Duke's people. So through the mind resonance item, he had his three sisters bring over some blood cores, and in passing, meet the new friend. It wasn't long before Li Pei and the Liao family sisters retrieved the blood cores from the storeroom and hurried over, light on their feet. Seeing Fran, fairer than snow and as exquisite as a doll, the three girls were astonished. Li Pei, with her bright and wise phoenix eyes, was the first to speak out. The lake sword has developed a sword spirit. I am not a sword spirit. Fran lifted the hem of her dress on both sides gently and bowed slightly, performing an elegant curtsy. I am Fran, a pleasure to meet all of you. The three girls also hurriedly curtsied and introduced themselves in turn. The Liao family sisters' eyes, black and white clearly defined, sparkled with curiosity. Liao Qi took a step forward and said in a delicate voice, Fran, are you that resistant to vampires, the last holy emperor of the Western human race? I was killed in battle when the higher-ups of the human race had already surrendered to the vampires, and the kingdom had also perished. Fran nodded gently. The holy emperor of the human race you speak of, should indeed be me. Liao Ye's face showed admiration as she said. Your deeds have been censored in the West, strictly forbidden to be mentioned. Instead, they have been adapted into storybooks here and are widely circulated. My sister and I greatly admire your indomitable spirit as a warrior. In the face of adversity, that is exactly how we martial artists should act. Storybooks? Fran asked with intense curiosity, what do they talk about? Can I have a look? I happen to have one with me, I'll go get it for you. Liao Qi always carried a few of her favorite books to flip through whenever she wanted, and this came in handy now. She hurried back to her room to get one. While waiting, Li Pei and Liao Ya also took out a box containing blood cores, selecting two especially large ones for Fran. Fran thanked them earnestly, then cheerfully ate them as if they were sugar beans. Liu Yao pursed his lips. Those two were clearly Viscount-level blood cores. It seemed that people who were cute and good-looking had advantages everywhere. In less than a minute, Liao Qi returned bustlingly, holding a delicate picture album in her hand. Fran expressed her thanks formally. Thank you, Miss Liao Qi. Then, she used mind force to make the album float in front of her and began to flip through it. The album was equivalent to an exceptionally beautiful comic book, with the author's craftsmanship being very solid. Even the black and white colors had a heart-stirring artistic expressiveness. A heroic and extraordinary young girl leading countless knights in resistance against the enslavement of vampires. But even a hero could not stand against the plots and intrigues of the blood ancestor, only to die tragically from betrayal and besiegement. The last page of the album depicted a sword sinking into a lake, with a tombstone at the bottom of the lake, and the epitaph read, "Here lies the eternal Night King. People believe the king has not died, she will return to save the world once more." Fran read softly, then closed the book. Her green eyes gazed vacantly at the sky, lost in thought. After a while, she turned and said with a smile, "It's mostly accurate, except the sacred lake at the end is where my mother rests, and that phrase was left for her." Listening, Liao Qi nodded repeatedly, then asked curiously, "So Fran, will you go back to Einheit to save your people? It's been ruled by vampires for thousands of years, and everyone has to pay the blood tax." Fran was startled for a moment, then shook her head with a complex expression. "The kingdom of Camelot has fallen, I don't want to go back." This was clearly a case of unspeakable difficulties, but Li Pei found the opportunity to ask. "Fran, Liu Yao mentioned that he can recreate a physical body for you? What realm are you from to have such formidable vitality?" Fran replied, "I am the king of knights, equivalent to your golden body realm. Moreover, my spirit has manifested in the material world, corresponding to divine manifestation. But my vitality comes from my mother. She was a half-god level powerhouse who underwent thunder baptism, and her descendants will inherit some of that might." The three girls expressed their amazement and then proceeded to chat animatedly, asking Fran many questions. A hero from the storybooks had come into reality, and they were all very curious. Moreover, Fran was delicate and adorable, bright and breezy, and not hard to get along with. She had an aura of nobility and righteousness that put people at ease. The soul does not lie, and Fran's divine soul could release such a vibration, truly exemplifying her noble character. The sisters had a delightful time interacting, and Fran even let Li Pei and the others touch her body, which, although felt very real, was but an illusory projection. Looking at her refined features, Liao Qi said with a hint of regret. Ancient great powers could craft physical bodies from lotuses, just like Neza. How will it work for you? Fran smiled bitterly. A perfect body to bear one's soul is the greatest gift from one's parents, a unique existence in the world, and this matter is very difficult. The girls chatted enthusiastically while Liu Yao practiced soul travel, beginning his attempt at bringing to life. In the path of spirit refinement, watching numerous secret manuals and having many adventures is not as effective as having someone demonstrate it right before your eyes. Normally, bringing to life would take a lot of time. But having witnessed how Fran did it, Liu Yao felt he could accomplish the task today.